in the past.
Stay there.
Do you think so?
Nah, it's good.
It's not bad, is it? It's good enough. Do you know what I was just saying to you a bit earlier, but we can chat about it again, but you flagged it up to me. You watched Wham one weekend, the documentary.
Yeah, I loved it.
I thought it was brilliant too.
Really good show.
It was good. It was uplifting.
It was, because obviously, given the subject matter and George Michael being dead, you'd think it would be, and that, you know, normally those things, like there's a negative relationship between them, and then there's artistic differences, but him and his mate Andrew,
they grew up together, went to
their
school.
Dreams, and
it was
Andrew knew that he wasn't really the star as such, and I know it was really good.
Yeah, they had a great relationship between the two of them. Like, but I didn't know that they grew up as kids and they were all of that, so it was nice.
Cracking show. I really enjoyed that myself.
So if anybody hasn't watched it, I would definitely watch it.
Wham on Netflix.
Yeah.
All right then.
Cheers.
See you in a bit, Lee. It is the 9 till noon show. Let's get a news update just a minute past 9 now, and we say good morning to Donald Kavanagh.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. A 50-year-old man will appear in court in County Derry today, charged in relation to this month's PSNI data breach. The man, who's due before Coleraine magistrates, also faces charges of possessing articles for use in terrorism. Delays to the approval of some cancer drugs mean doctors can't prescribe the appropriate treatment for 1 in 4 patients. Oncologists say it relates to high-cost anti-cancer drugs, such as immunotherapies. At the moment, new drugs must go through an extensive HSE approval process once they're initially approved by the European Medicines Agency, and that can take around 2 years. Consultant and Secretary of the Irish Society of Medical Oncology, Michael McCarthy, says such delays are unsustainable.
We're not talking about chemotherapies. We're specifically talking about high-cost anti-cancer drugs, for example, immunotherapies. For those drugs, I cannot just prescribe these medications. They have to be approved for reimbursement by the HSE. The remaining challenges, I think, centre around the pace of change in innovation, and also delays from the time of approval by the European Medicines Agency to actual access for Irish cancer patients.
Early Childhood Ireland says Donegal's children are being let down because of a decades-long focus on providing childcare for economic reasons. The organisation, which has 115 members in Donegal, has called on the government and policymakers to completely rethink their approach to early years and school-age care. They say the emphasis has been on facilitating parents' access to the workforce rather than meeting the needs of children. The government is being urged to get on with it and make a decision over the future funding of RTE. It was suggested an overhaul of the licence fee is on the cards following lower levels of payment alongside the recent controversies at the state broadcaster. The government's been given a series of options around the long-term future funding of RTE. CEO of Shinawil, Larry Bass, says government is elected to make decisions, and now it's time to do that.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel here. There's lots of examples, but we just need to make a decision and get on with it. And these are hard decisions. And we as an Irish people haven't been great at taking hard decisions. It's time to be led by, their leaders and get on with it.
Nearly 40% of people who are blind or vision impaired have been injured by footpath obstacles. That's the finding of a new survey among NCBI service users. The organisation's Clear Our Paths campaign gets underway. Cars parked on footpaths were the most common obstacles, followed by dog fouling and wheelie bins. Access and Mobility Manager with the National Council for the Blind is Chantel Smith.
Very serious injuries associated with unnecessary obstacles on footpaths. One individual sustained a broken ankle as a result of the unexpected street furniture on a footpath. We've had another person indicate that they couldn't pass on one side of a vehicle, so they had to go onto the road, and that's when they had a trip and went down and sprained their wrist.
And with the forecast today, rather windy with outbreaks of rain developing, turning heavier in the afternoon. Southwest winds fresh to strong and gusty. Top temperature 17 to 19 degrees Celsius. That's Highland Radio News. Back with news in full at 10 o'clock.
War is inevitable. One must destroy in order to create. We are no Jedi.
Streaming soon, Star Wars Ahsoka arrives on Disney+.
Anakin never got to finish my training. I walked away from him. But something's coming. Something dark. I sense it.
Hunt them down.
Once a rebel, always a rebel.
Ahsoka, 2-episode premiere streaming August 23rd, exclusively on Disney+. Subscription required. 18+, T's and C's apply.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, good morning to you. 5 minutes past 9 on this Monday, the 21st of August. I do hope you're very well indeed. Hope you had a lovely weekend. If you were off or perhaps you were working, either way, it's great to have you on board this bright but breezy Monday morning here from the northwest of Ireland. And we've a busy show for you coming up on today for you. 086 60 25,000 is the WhatsApp and text number. If you want to get involved in the conversation or indeed start your own, 00353 86 60 25,000, your WhatsApps and texts from outside the Republic. If you want to give us a call, Caroline and Niamh taking your calls today on 07491 25,000. Again, from outside the Republic, 00353 74 91 25,000. As I say, plenty coming up on the show. We'll also be chatting to Brendan Devaney a little later on after 11 o'clock, previewing tonight's DL Debate podcast, but also getting his views on the lock. And it seems to be now that Jim McGuinness is to return as the Donegal senior football team manager. What a development that is. But anyway, that and so much more besides. Right, let's run through what's making the front and inside some of the papers today. The Derry People Donegal News. Inspirational Donegal woman Geraldine Mullen has spoken of how she plans to honour the memories of her husband and children for the rest of her days. She was speaking on the weekend of the third anniversary of the tragic accident in which she lost her husband, John, and children, Tomas and Amelia, aged 14 and 16. The Maville family had been returning from a day out in Derry when their car entered Lochfoyle at Quigley's Point on August 20th, 2021. Ms. Mullen was guest speaker at the National Novena in Knock on Friday, where she recalled how her life changed forever in almost an instant. And Geraldine, a regular guest on this programme, and always does what she says to honour the memories of her husband and children. And it's a tough, every day is tough, but particularly when it comes around to anniversaries and what have you. So we hope Geraldine's doing well today. The Derry News this morning: a heartbroken Derry mother has launched a petition calling for stiffer sentences for drug dealers. Pauline Duddy, who tragically lost her daughter Jasmine to drugs, is calling on the government to change the law so drug dealers could be prosecuted with murder. Jasmine, just 21, sadly passed away in February, leaving her young son Theo. Pauline described her daughter as a very bubbly and caring person with a big heart and a brilliant mother. On to the nationals now, and two men who died in the Ironman Ireland event in Youghal in County Cork have been named locally as Garda investigations begin. The competitors have been named as Brendan Wall, who was in his mid-40s and originally from County Meath but was living in Solihull in the UK, and Ivor Chittenden, 64, who travelled from his home in Toronto to take part. It's understood that the men separately got into difficulty while swimming. They were removed from the water and pronounced dead by medical personnel. Gardaí were present in the control room of the Ironman event all day and were at the scene of the tragedy. Gardaí will now prepare files for the coroner's court, but there's no suggestion that the incidents are being treated as a criminal matter. Post-mortems will take place on the two men at Cork University Hospital today. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of commentary since, and not surprisingly, it turned to questions today as to whether or not the event should have proceeded. I mean, there are those of you out there that have been involved in such competitions, and you would know that it is not unusual, especially with a large field, sadly, for people to get into difficulty or to even die. I don't know what the ethos is in that. Does the show go on? There's a lot of questions being asked in the national media as, oh, it should have been cancelled, it shouldn't have gone ahead. I don't know. I'd be interested in hearing, what other competitors might think, what the families of the men who perished might think as well, because a great deal of commitment is put in to be prepared for these tough competitions. So, I mean, obviously in this day and age, instantly it goes to, well, who can we blame? The organisers, they should have cancelled it. That seems to be the tone of conversation this morning. But I don't know. As I say, I don't know what the ethos is amongst people who participate in these. And as I say, I don't know what the views of the family of the men that passed were. And sometimes we just jump to sort of say or do or question what we believe to be the right thing without really knowing. what the right thing would be in that situation. But if any of you out there have an insight as to whether or not it should have continued or not, let us know. But people did travel from all over the world, and it is a high-risk sport. The Irish Independent this morning, there are hopes that consumers could see their energy bills fall in coming months as the market gets a shake-up from a new entrant today. It comes as households grapple with a cost of living crisis that could be further exacerbated in autumn and winter as they approach, and consumers' electricity and gas bills soar after a summer lull. Has there been a summer lull at all? Bills coming into the house for €300 for when you're not hardly using any electricity. It hardly feels like a lull. That's the most recent bills. What have your bills been like over the summer? Has it felt like a lull? 086 60 25,000. If it's 300 or 400 now, you'd worry about what it might be in the winter. But newcomer Uno Energy is promising it could save customers more than €500 a year on their electricity bills by closely monitoring their energy usage at home. Consumer groups are hoping it will force rivals to cut their prices, providing some respite for hard-pressed consumers struggling with higher bills for everything from energy to food. So this company, they don't need any further advertisement. But anyway, you pay for your bills monthly in advance. On estimates, they're about a little over 38 cents per unit. And as I say, you pay monthly in advance. But the catch is you need a smart meter. Now, you can sign up without one, but they will organise one to be installed for you. But they say they can save you £500 a year. They're the same people who do the prepay energy, I believe. The Irish Daily Mail continues its coverage of the controversies at RTE. RTE faces a cross-party political revolt if it attempts to land revenue with the job of collecting the licence fee. Ministers have warned. The cash-strapped broadcaster has also raised the possibility of the current funding model being replaced by a new media licence or a levy applicable to all households. The proposed changes have met stern resistance. One minister said, "Are they for real? Are they seriously suggesting that we impose the TV equivalent of water charges in the run-up to a general election?" Taoiseach Leo Varadkar said that he believes it's nearly time to bite the bullet and legislate for funding of RTE. What do you all think of this? However, one minister says if we do this, let's turn to page 4, in 2024, the public would be infuriated. There would be a political revolt if this was attempted, bringing in the equivalent of local property tax would be political madness. So it's like the LPT as well. Is there anyone listening to this show today that believes that people should be forced through a levy or through revenue collection to pay for RTE services? And if you do, that's why I'm inviting you. I think the majority don't, but I'd be interested to hear from someone who thinks that would be a good idea. 086 60 25,000. We were right at the time of the last budget. We were covering it, and it was suggested, and the general feeling was that it was a budget for people who were better off, that in fact it would make the rich more richer and the poor more poor, or at least widen the gap between the two. And it's taken to now for this to be written about in the newspapers. The Irish Daily Star tells us that the gap between the rich and the poor families will widen if there are not genuine measures in the upcoming budget made to address the situation, Social Justice Ireland has claimed. It also says the temporary cost of living measures introduced by the government are failing low-income households to cope with ever-increasing prices. Last year's budget did not help the worst off in Irish society and, in some cases, had the opposite effect. The organisation's chief executive, Dr. Sean Healy said. So that doesn't really come as any great surprise to me. And I'm sure you're aware of the story, the Lucy Letby story, the most horrendous of stories. And just to let you know, as I read this, it is a very emotive topic. It's about the murder of babies. And I'm not going to get deep into it. I'm just going to read some of the article here, but just to let you know that that's what I'm going to be talking about. She's going to be sentenced today, but she's not actually going to have to hear impact statements or anything from the court because of the way it works over in Britain. She can avoid all of that. Baby killer Lucy Letby should have the heartbreaking statements from her victims' families piped into her cell, a UK MP says. The nurse who murdered 7 newborns is refusing to attend court for sentencing today, but former British Justice Secretary Robert Buckland insisted the proceedings should be played to her cell regardless of her wishes. He said yesterday, sadly, the court's hands are tied. My suggestion would be to make sure there was a live link beamed into the cell of the sound and or send pictures to ensure that Letby has nowhere to hide and, in fact, has to listen to what the judge is saying about her case. It is the most shocking of cases, and I feel for all of the families who might feel that they have some level of justice even though they've lost their precious little baby. But then there was a number of counts where the jury failed to reach a verdict, and their parents must be going through an awful situation as well. And then, of course, there's going to be other parents whose children may have passed and weren't included in that investigation that will eternally have questions to ask. But it is the most horrendous of stories. And finally, I'm mentioning this because I'm sure many of you have connections to Tenerife if you like to go over there or you know people over there. Well, anyway, the Irish Daily Mirror tells us that wildfires raging across the island of Tenerife were probably started by arsonists, police revealed. And officials warned any suspects found guilty would face jail. Detectives have already opened an investigation into the fires. Firefighters and troops were last night still battling the infernos which broke out last Tuesday. All right, that's a run through the papers. Thanks again, everyone who listened to or popped in to say hello at our outside broadcast on Friday. I think by all accounts, despite some weather interference, it was a good weekend in Letterkenny for the Letterkenny Festival, and the Pride Parade seems to be incredibly well attended as well. And we were there to mark the launch of those events. But also on the show we had 4 young guests. I'm going to play a wee clip from them just in case you weren't listening. We had a youth panel together. Cassie Lamb, Tiernan Lynch, Stephen Sheridan, Chloe Martin, 4 wonderful young people that are involved in sort of, activism or the student council, or, they've got a real interest in the future of not only their school and county, but their country as well. But I did ask them towards the end of the programme, and this is just a random 4 people, if they saw their future in Donegal or Ireland. And I'm going to play it out for you, a wee snippet of what they said, because as I say, it kind of came as a surprise to me. All 4 were of the same view. I said, do you see a future for yourself in Donegal?
No, I don't.
All right.
And I would love to. I see myself going to the ATU when I'm older, but I don't see myself staying here for very long then.
I'm not sure. I don't think so, to be honest. I'm hoping to go to Galway for college, and if I like it down there, I might stay. I could go to England or Dubai.
Come back. When did you just say Dubai? No.
Anyway.
Right.
Donegal is my home. It's where I grew up. It's where I go to school. But do I see myself achieve my hopes and dreams here? No.
Look, even already doing youth activism, I can't stay here. And going into the future, whether it be college or work, I can't stay here.
Okay. I mean, that's shocking, isn't it? Is that the conversations that are happening in your houses, or does it just so happen that those 4 great young people are all of the same mind? But it's terrible, isn't it, if our young people don't see their future here? Let us know what you think. 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or give us a call on 074 91 25,000.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra Mountaintop Letterkenny, the C-Store National Large Forecourt of the Year for 2022. It's the 9 till noon show in association with the Northwest Truck Fest this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart, with live music, family fun, a truck convoy and much more. Join the Highland Radio outside broadcast team this Wednesday afternoon from 2:40 at Letterkenny Credit Union for their first car draw of the year. 2 lucky Letterkenny Credit Union members will each win a brand new Renault Capture. A number of cash prizes will also be given away. So tune in this Wednesday from 2:40 to hear if you're a winner with Letterkenny Credit Union. Enhance your skills with SafeTech's part-funded training programs. At SafeTech, we provide courses including first aid, roadworks, people moving and handling, confined spaces, electrofusion and machinery training for Ireland and UK sites. Also online programs such as water hygiene, construction supervisors, safety reps and much more. If you have a group for training, SafeTech will go to you. Contact SafeTech today at safetech.ie and take the first step towards upskilling and safety compliance.
What's your dream job? Lawyer? Software developer? Engineer? Or criminologist? Do you want to develop renewable energies? Create the next great drama? Or improve people's health? Anything is possible at Ulster University, where you can study in the heart of Derry Londonderry. Clearing places are now available to help you realise your ambitions. It's time to say hello, future. Apply now for September 2023 at ulster.ac.uk/clearing.
Don't miss the Northwest Truck Fest taking place this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart. Enjoy a truckload of fun with live music, a truck lights display and much more. This ad is sponsored by Donegal Oil, 9121633.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
Well, the time is 21 minutes past 9 on this Monday morning. Now, I believe, the McGill Summer School has wrapped up for another year. Our reporter, Michaela Clark, covered it over the course of the 3 or 4 days. And you can see her reporting on that on our website. Also in attendance was Independent Senator Eileen Flynn. Good morning to you, Eileen. How are you getting on?
Good morning, Greg. Thanks for having me on the show this morning.
No, thanks for accepting our invite. And it was off the back of a tweet you sent out, and you had attended your first McGill Summer School. So did you go out of curiosity, Eileen? Were you invited, or what took you to Glenties for the summer school?
Well, for years I was interested in it because I hear about it at a national level as well. You know, when you tell people your connection with Donegal, they'd be talking about the McGill Summer School because 46 years ago was set up as a political platform so people could voice their opinions. But today, in my opinion, it's one-sided. It's an establishment, really. It's part of the system. Unfortunately, that's how it is today. So people has always encouraged me around it. So I said I would go because I have a great interest in what's happening with Ukraine and Russia at the moment, unfortunately, and everything that's happening with Ireland joining NATO, trying to encourage us to join NATO. So that's where my interest was, and I went over to participate in it as an ordinary person, really. Admission was €10, €70 for the week. It was very expensive. And when I went in the door, Greg, I'm going to be very honest, from looking around, there were no young people. I was probably the youngest person there, apart from the young men who was doing the media and the social media. And, you know, it was chaired by former TD and MEP Pat Cock. And I just found that it was very, you know, his language was one-sided. When we put up our hands to speak, we wasn't allowed to speak. He knew who was speaking in the room. I just felt it was, you know, it was pointless going because the discussion was already had. And
so you believe that it was set up really with a preconceived outcome, really, and it was just to discuss what everyone agreed on, and really maybe not bringing you into the conversation because maybe you might steer the narrative in a different direction?
Well, the title of the event I went to was Russia's Future, and basically there was a woman there, Bridget Lafferty, that I believe is the most NATO-driven person in Europe that promotes it, that, you know, supports NATO. There was a Chinese colonel there, ex-colonel, and he had a different, not much of a different picture from the anti-Russian person who was born and reared in Russia, but he's anti-Putin now. Now, look, I'm anti-Putin myself. I'm not being on the show saying that I wanted to talk about being on Russia's side. I wanted a broader picture, and unfortunately, that broader picture wasn't there it was more of a conversation around NATO and what it was around Russia's future in the world.
To some extent, even though, maybe it wasn't what you wanted, it is, and I think it does give does it, quite a good insight into what the establishment actually think and believe.
Oh yeah, I felt it because again it was the people, the panel, people. One woman, and I believe she was innocent. She was an ordinary woman sitting there. She said she would like to hear another side of the story, and the chairperson said he wouldn't chair anything like that.
Right. So, in other words, if anyone strayed from the that we say, for instance, that Ukraine must go into NATO, we must back Ukraine, the West must do everything to fight Russia in Ukraine. If you varied from that at all, that there was no interest in that. I mean, we have to be able to have nuanced conversations, do we not? But there was your feeling was that there was no interest in that at all.
No interest at all. And again, as I said, the admission in the door was like €10, which is very expensive. No young person in the audience. As far as I could see, there were no young person. A man brought a child woman that was like 2 or 3 years of age. That was the youngest person that was in the audience. I just felt it was, because again, I've been in Donegal involved in activism now for the last 6 years, and people be saying to me, it's a one-sided event. And even the other events, like there were people speaking at other events that I know from working at a national level with them that it wouldn't be their field, And I'm thinking to myself, why is this allowed? Why is like that person wouldn't be professional enough to speak on this discussion? They should have got in, say, another person that's in Donegal that would be involved in the topics, So again, I just think from walking in the room, to me, it was more of an establishment. It was more older people, and it's no harm. It's brilliant seeing older people participating in events like the McGill's summer school. But however, saying that, to not see our young people the future and to be led astray, I think, going for a talk to be educated, because we all need to be educated around what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. Again, we're just off our own Irish media here, and we don't know if all that is
because
truth,
there was one. I mean, I was just listening to some of Michaela's coverage. There was a quote from a Chinese gentleman who said that China doesn't back Russia at all, and even on that basis, I'm not sure if that was in the same part of the event that you. I mean, even that, I think, deserves to be challenged to some extent. I mean, that is one person's point of view, but it's kind of demonstrably untrue, because China and Russia are carrying out military operations together. China is taking an awful lot of the oil and gas that Europe isn't. And
I do think, Greg, if you are interested in the news in China and Russia and look at it in depth to the way I would look at it, you would understand that. You'd understand that it's not just a friendly chat around the room. You'd understand that they're looking bigger into the future, and that's what would love to have challenged. But saying that, he was probably, in my opinion, when it came to NATO, and he was probably the person that everybody else was against, because he was speaking some truth, not all truth, but he was probably the only person there that was speaking some truth, in my opinion. And again, I would have loved to challenge that, because if you look at national and international news, you would know that Russia and China has a relationship, and we don't know if that's going to be danger for the future. We don't know what that holds for us. But again, Bridget Lafferty, she a pure NATO driven NATO, and again, I just felt the discussion was if he had said it was about Ireland joining NATO and encouraging us, I probably wouldn't have went anyway. But
can I ask in terms of just in terms of participation, okay? Because you are a person with a very high profile platform. You're a national politician, and actually, before I ask this question, have you ever been invited to join a panel at McGill Summer School?
No.
Okay.
No.
But anyway, what I was going to say is, so to have you perhaps contribute from the floor would be really quite significant, and I'm sure there are others with you that would like to have had their say. Did you get an opportunity, or did anyone get an opportunity to ask a question or to make a contribution from the floor at all?
Yeah, they did. There were about 4 people, and as I said, there was one woman who said she'd like to hear another side of the debate, and Pat's response was he wouldn't share that. He wouldn't share that. So again, now Liam put up his hand to speak, because Liam would be really good on what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, to be fair to him. And he put up his hand, but he said to me at least 3 times, he said, I won't be able to speak because he knows that he lives here and he's been involved in it for years. And I said, I know you will put up your hand, of course you'll be allowed to speak. And he wasn't. He wasn't allowed to speak because, again, he probably would have challenged the panel.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, it's as I say, you went in there with your eyes open. You didn't know what you were to expect, and that's your honest appraisal.
I do think they should reform this summer school, and where they're involving young people.
The problem is, Eileen, and I don't wish to cut across you. I just wonder, and as I say, I have an awful lot of respect for the people involved. Don't get me wrong, but I have to have honest conversations as well. I just wonder if the guest list might be more difficult to sort of pull together if there were some dissenting voices. Now, I'm not saying there weren't any dissenting voices. I wasn't there, but my point is that they get an awful lot of high-profile government politicians up. If they were going to be challenged on that stage, if I was moderating one of the conversations and maybe asked a difficult question, maybe that's not what they want. Maybe you know what I mean. Maybe it is. Maybe it is what it is, and the reason they don't have you up on the stage is because maybe, a government rep or a Miss Laffin might not accept an invite to come back again. I don't know.
In my opinion, Miss Laffin is, pure NATO. She's just driven one way, and I didn't see any extreme high-profile people. Like, the likes of Minister Ryan wasn't there, even though, around the climate debate, he didn't go. Charlie McConnell, was there. But again, we also had a member of Rose there, Sinn Féin. So again, I don't think the people that they had there was extreme. If you want to say high profile people,
not the Ian Paisleys, Martin McGuinness, Jerry Adams, Micheál Martins of the past. Yeah, okay, I get you.
I was at a summer school where Jerry Adams was during the summer, and to be fair to that summer school in Belfast, it was people from the floor got to speak, people with different opinions, and I genuinely thought that would be similar. It was that people were just saying that you wouldn't get the opportunity to speak or to engage. But I do think the McGill Summer School should look at themselves and say, actually, the young people is their future. They should be doing things differently. They'd even for a bigger audience and being able to expand on the programme as well. But now for the 6 years I've been in Donegal, around education, say the Mary from Dunlow Festival, whatever it may be, I am invited to it. Not that I think I'm anything, far from it, but it's having the invitation to be there and to be able to participate like other public representatives, which is really, really important. And this is the first time that I've been to, and especially it's a political school as well. And you think that you'd be fine there because it's your profession really. And again, people might look at me and think I'm a one-trick pony, but I do have other interests such as NATO and peace. I'm very interested in what's happening with Russia and Ukraine at the moment, and to not be able to have that space to be able to have a real conversation, and for the politicians to be able to take it. Again, it's programmed in one way. The politicians are going, and that's basically it.
All right, stay there a second. Joe, you wanted to get in this conversation. What's your views?
Well, my views is that I would agree entirely with Senator Flynn there, and about that element of one-sidedness and establishment view that is at McGill, and whether that's about Ukraine and Russia this year, or global economics and the emergence of China, or any other subject down the years, I find that I attend regularly. I'm local up out the road in Fintown, but I mean it is a little bit like that, and it is sad to see it, and it is true to say what she says, that in the end, a lot of the guests that are there, a lot of the attendees that are there, are councillors from other counties who are on expenses, and largely getting back to even the fee for going in. For locals then it's very, very expensive to go, and a lot of locals don't attend, and that's such a pity, because the councillors that are there are getting, and such like people or media people like your good selves say, like, you're not going to be charged, you're there doing a job. Fantastic to see Michaela there. I'm looking forward to listening to that blog. So it is very one-sided towards the establishment. And yes, the dissenting voice, as Senator Flynn said, not the dissenting voice.
Yeah, the opposing.
The alternative voice. The opposing, sorry, exactly. You stick your hand in the air as often as you like, but you might not get the call because they have already an idea what this journalist or that councillor might want to say. And I will say there was one occasion this year, I attended a few sessions, and one gentleman was told on maybe the second or third night, "Oh look, you've asked a question every night." Well, that was very unusual, and again, it was somebody probably with an interest. Like he certainly wasn't local. So there's a lot, and like the whole Russia thing, the whole Ukraine thing, it was very, very evident that there was only going to be one voice, and that voice had to trump as Senator Flynn is saying, it was going to be extremely pro-NATO. There was that situation where the question wasn't even about NATO, but the question that was being answered was all about NATO. I forget exactly what that is. I'd have to look at my notes.
Joe, don't worry about that. Yeah.
I'm not bringing it back. But it is like, it was like, as she says, and expensive to get into. I think, and she's talking about the young people there that on sound, I think. The thing about that is, and again, I know some of those young men because they're local, and the fantastic thing about that is there's the coterie of young men there now in Glenties who are obviously part of the McGill Summer School Committee and who are coming of age and involved with the organising of it and everything. And I think that is absolutely fantastic. Compared to the older establishment, like Joe Mulholland has put 46 years or whatever it is of his life into it, which is absolutely brilliant.
It's remarkable,
and it is nice to see. Remarkable, but it is nice to see younger people coming on, and they need a chance. But they could give local people a chance too. And I'm only coming up with that by what Senator Flynn said about being expensive to get in, and thinking of the councillors they're all on expensive. Why don't those young men now that are getting involved with McGill? Why don't they not see that? Because
Okay.
they're
Stay there, Joe.
Can't afford to go.
Stay there, Joe. Eileen, did you want to come back in there?
Yeah, and just like, again, I'm not bad-mouthing the organisers. It was set up for good intentions, but for the last 5-6 years, it has went down and became an establishment. Unfortunately, in my opinion, that's what I think. And it should be like the young people in Donegal have little or no. They have to, as like your previous caller, listening to young people like that. And there should be a platform also for those kind of young people that's going into universities, the cost, the accommodation crisis. Now, they did speak about climate change, but like, again, it wasn't, young people wasn't engaged in that. And
I mean, if we don't start listening to young people and sort of saying, right, what can we do to give them a future here, we are in some bother in the next 5 to 10 years' time, because we're going to see a complete depopulation of areas like Donegal, because for our 4 young people we had with us on Friday, all of them simply at this point, and we hope it changes, couldn't see a future for themselves in this county. Joe, before I let you go, you still attend those, so there's enough there that interests you.
Well, I suppose I'm breaking into that older establishment.
You're just becoming one of them.
But saying that, I've been attending since I was a young man. But yes, it does frustrate me. I saw a local man stand and ask a question, a very direct question. I think it might have been the same session that Senator Flynn was talking about, and she might remind me and fill me in on this. He asked a direct question, like, why basically, I'm paraphrasing, Senator Flynn might qualify this. He asked a very, very short question. He says, why all the fuss and why all the retrospection over Ukraine now, and why did nobody speak up in 2003 when the US and America and Britain invaded Iraq? And that question was not answered. Each one of the and to say that Pat Cox was one-sided, sadly, and I've seen Pat Cox there down the years, but particularly this year, he's the senator. I would agree on that too. He was belligerent to the point of and saying things like, "Well, I'm not going to chair that," or "I'm not going to answer that."
Well, you see, the problem is you see,
as a moderator, he shouldn't have done that.
Of course, but Joe, I think the problem with that question is that no one really has an answer that's palatable. Do you know what I mean?
Nobody's answer is palatable, but when somebody asks a question, when you ask one of your guests on your show a question, Greg, you desire an answer, and whilst it might be palatable, or vice versa, when there's a discussion going on and somebody asks you a question, like, you will attempt to accommodate them. You'll never slap them down.
I see the point you're making.
Well, I'm not going to deal with that issue now. I see the point you're making.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. Joe, thanks for your time. See you next year.
Okay, Greg.
Okay. What would you, before I let you go, Senator, because I don't want to take up too much of your time, what would you like to have seen discussed? So say, for instance, the floor is yours. What question would you like to have seen posed, or what question would Liam, do you think, have posed, either or, to the panel? What would you like to have them have addressed as part of the conversation?
Just around the nuclear weapons, that there would be one of our questions, and then because they were going on so much about NATO, we would have asked questions around NATO as well. You know, just to get a better understanding, and that relationship with Russia and China, that is very, very worrying. And that there was a question I would have asked myself if I was able to speak. But again, like, you have the questions there because you're live at the event and stuff. But now
I get you. No, I just wanted to know. I'm not looking for the exact question, Senator. I was just curious as to where you'd like to have seen the conversation go. And I get you. Yeah, no, that's what I was anticipating.
You know, Greg, I would have loved to see, even through Zoom or whatever, an ordinary person that was living in Russia, and how was it impacting their lives, what's going on now. Because I know that we're talking worldwide about how bad Russia is, but for me, as a person that's all about human rights, I can't help to think about the women, the children, and young men in Russia at the moment, and what they must be going through.
Yeah, because we speak about the Russians. It's the Russian leadership. Yeah. We don't really know what the general population think, because they can't express a view for fear of very, very serious sanction.
And even their research is driven, and we all know the corruption in Russia, and we all know what Putin's Russia is, you know. But for me, it's the people, the ordinary people in Russia that's probably fearing for their life, fearing for their future, and people who wouldn't be looking at it as an economic, as the way Russia is now, do you know? So for me, that's what I would have loved to see. And questions I would have asked as well is about ordinary Russian citizens, like how are they, you know, because a lot of people are saying that a lot of the Russians are pro-Putin and they're going to be voting for Putin again in March. Is that a choice, or is that pressure? Is that something that they have to do? We don't really know.
Okay. Lovely to chat to you again. Thank you very much indeed. That's Senator Eileen Flynn, 086 60 25,000. And thanks for texting us in on that number. Give us a call too, 07491 25,000, if you prefer, just to tell us what you think. Okay, we'll get to some of those comments and more after the break.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show brought to you by the Northwest Truck Fest, taking place this Saturday and Sunday in the grounds of Milford Mart, with proceeds to Donegal Down Syndrome.
Breeden's Furniture, Cooley Maville. With over 40 years of experience in furniture and floor coverings, they've got Irish-made furniture, suites, beds, mattresses, dining, flooring, slide robes and occasional furniture. Great prices and large selection now available at Breeden's Home Furnitures, Cooley Maville.
Bundoran presents Ireland's biggest indoor dancing festival, the World Matchmaking Festival, in 4 venues for 10 days, 10 nights, September 29th to October 8th. Starring 35 bands including Tumbling Paddies, Derek Ryan, David James, Declan Nerney, plus Blind Date and Speed Dating. Book now for accommodation and entertainment package deals. Log on to showtours.ie or call Showtours on 0818 300 888. Meet your match in Bundoran.
Exam results arriving? Your career starts with Northwest Regional College. On the day your exam results arrive, come along to your local Derry, Londonderry, Strabane or Limavady campus to apply for a course or confirm your place. Choose from our wide range of apprenticeships, level 3 diplomas, foundation degrees and so much more. For information, visit nwrc.ac.uk/results. Northwest Regional College. From here to career.
Don't miss the Northwest Truck Fest taking place this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart. Enjoy a truckload of fun with live music, a truck lights display and much more. This ad is sponsored by Donegal Oil, 9121633.
Yeah, looking forward to going along to the Truck Fest. It's a fantastic couple hours out or a full day out if you've never been to one before, and the young ones particularly love it. There's a great mixture of an audience at it. So that's the Truck Fest. We'll talk about that a little later on in the week, but great to have them on board, and I'm sure it's going to be a cracker. And the weather already actually is suggesting next weekend is going to be actually okay. So we'll see as we get closer to it. Is the McGill Summer School not organised by Fine Gael, asks a listener. I thought it was well known it was a talking shop for Fine Gael. No, it's not. It's organised locally. The Yes people go to the McGill Summer School. They don't want any challenges on anything. Another, the McGill Summer School experience is an example of what is wrong with modern work culture or woke culture. There's only one view allowed. Dissenting views are not permitted. This in society leads to division, tensions and pushes people towards far-right groups. Discussion and differences of opinion are the cornerstone of democracy. Every battalion has its marching songs. Patrick McGill, clearly there is only one song being sung at the the McGill Summer School, sorry. Well done, Senator Flynn. Greg Eileen's right, we're not allowed to have a balanced debate, and I think Russia was 100% wrong in what they did. Like anything, if you do not agree with the consensus, then you are condemned. But listen, whatever we have to discuss, we need to start discussing, because you know, hundreds of thousands of young people sent to their deaths, inevitable deaths, and it's happening all the time. And that's both Russian young people who are conscripted, both and Ukraine, where they're conscripted, they're not allowed to leave the country and they're sent to the battle lines. And on it goes. And I would love to see something done to try and come up with a resolution to it. But no one seems to even want to talk about that. OK, let's return to local matters again. And I'm delighted to welcome onto the show Aaron Daly. Good morning, Aaron. Thanks for your time today. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Greg. Thanks for having us on.
No, and you're speaking on your behalf, but also advocating for your daughter, Sophia, who is a wheelchair user. And the bottom line is we really have an extreme shortage of proper toilet facilities here in Donegal. What's the experience?
To be honest, I grew up in Donegal, so we go back, and I now live in Dublin. But we go back every summer for a couple of weeks to Anashone, and we travel around, you know. Now, our daughter Sophia is 17 years old. She's a wheelchair user. She is fully dependent on us for her needs. So we need to change Sophia during the day as it goes, you know. And what we're finding is it's increasingly hard every year in Donegal to find a suitable changing facility where we can safely and hygienically change Sophia. So to give you an example, a normal accessible bathroom has only got enough room for a wheelchair and the wheelchair user to maybe get in and use the facilities. With Sophia, there's normally a carer and normally two carers, and we need a hoist and an adult-sized changing bench to change her and get her back onto her chair. And to be honest with you, there's only one registered place in Donegal, in Nairn and Portrue now. And And I'll give you an example. We were up there for the last 10 days. We travelled about on the zone as we do, and we have to take a mattress, like a fold-up mattress that goes in the back of the van with us. And if we have to change Sophia, then we take her out of wherever we have, try and find a secluded spot, take her out of her wheelchair, put her in the mattress and change her, and then put her back in the chair. Now, if we go into Derry across the border, 10 minutes away, there's a number of places that are already there.
Is there? Okay.
That we can use. Yeah, there is. Now, I am part of the Change in Places campaign, which has been campaigning, and we successfully got the building regulations changed over the last 3 years with the Department of Housing. So actually, legislation has been brought into effect from the 1st of January, which actually becomes compulsory from the 1st of January in 24, that any public buildings or public spaces or places that meet the criteria will have to now start providing a set standard of changing places with a hoist, a changing bench, an increased floor space, and the other bits and pieces like a privacy screen and stuff like that.
Well, that's fantastic and a fantastic achievement. Is that with new developments going forward, or where there is the space and it suits Aaron, would that be done retrospectively as well?
The way so what it is, it's an amendment to Part M of the building regulations, which normally would include for the provision of facilities for, say, additional needs. You know, and actually all new buildings will need to meet the standard, but retrospectively, if we have public buildings around the place, they will have a time limit to get themselves up to scratch as well. Yeah, because they will have to meet the standards, you know.
And it has to be said too, Aaron, that the facilities that you talk of came off the back of, you know, campaigns, fundraising, local action. You know what I mean? So if it wasn't for that and for the people responsible for that, we wouldn't even have the one. I mean, it's an awful state of affairs. And I know people as well, Aaron, and I'm sure you'll find it, that if you're going anywhere, you're almost, you know, the hot spots where these facilities are right across the country. And, you know, you have to sometimes meander your way down to Mayo or something to make sure that you hit the few places that have these proper changing facilities. It's crazy.
It's very interesting because the point that you make is exactly what happened to us. There's a big international change, a big international theme park down from the UK in Longford, and it has become very well known, and it's designed around bikes there, you know, the whole Centre Parks thing. And we now go there twice a year. Sophia's 18 in December, and she's chosen to go there for her 18th birthday. Because it's all wheelchair friendly. They have a couple of these changing places.
Really brilliant. Fair play to Centre Parks.
We have a disability lodge there, which has a hoist in it. You know, I would much rather be spending my money in Donegal.
I get you.
Than giving it than getting it over there. The one in Port New was there was a lot of local fundraising and a lot of activism locally. But the whole point of this now, Greg, is the building regulations are the building regulations. Nobody should have to campaign for this because the building regulations state what the standard should be. So it's up to Donegal County Council now, and every council in the country, they start looking at this and start putting things in place that if they want people with disabilities to come along and spend money in their town and be included, then they have to start providing the facilities.
And when that one in Nairn and Port, exactly, when that one in Nairn and Port New was launched, like, it was great. But I said to the guests in studio at the time, I says, we need to get to a point whereby one facility being opened, as fantastic it is a news story. Like, you know, this should be this should be the norm. You know, like, as I say, and that's not taking anything away from what was achieved, but it shouldn't be a news story that we have one proper toilet facility for people with disability.
Yeah, well, true. You know, if people could see us changing a 17-year-old in the back of a van in 2023, you know, that's a new story in itself. But But like, we're in the Inishowen Peninsula there. We stay down in Lisbon for a couple of weeks. We're not going to travel over to Portneuf just so that we can use the changing. We shouldn't have to anyway. But if there's one place in Donegal, then it's kind of out of reach for us. We all know how vast the county is.
Yeah.
But I had a very constructive meeting with Jack Murray when we were up there. We actually came back to Dublin last night, and I tried contacting a few people, and Jack Murray met with us. He's going to take it to council as well and just see if they can be proactive with it. Especially, they've just spent a fortune developing Swan Park. We walk through Swan Park. There's public toilets there for the general public, but we have to go back to the car park or drive back home to use the hoist if we want to change our daughter, So that's the thing. So this is coming down the line. I hope Donegal Council can get on board and start being a bit more proactive with it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, and it links into the bigger disability thing of, beach access,
inclusion in every element of life. Aaron, I wish I had more time. Best wishes to Sophia and the rest of the family, and I hope you enjoyed your stay.
Amazing.
And well done to you and the group for getting that legislative change. And let's hope now people do the right thing and sort of adhere to it retrospectively as well. Thank you so much. That's Aaron Daly, father of Sophia McGuinness there. And that is the state of play in 2023. We shouldn't really have to have parents having to fight and advocate and for what should be basic provisions. Okay, stay right where you are. We're going to take a break for the news and the obituary notices, and then we'll be back after.
It's the 9 till noon show in association with the Northwest Truck Fest this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart with live music, family fun, a truck convoy and much more.
It's the big brand sale at Super Value, and there's great special offers like selected Nestle and Kellogg cereals now half price, selected goodies like Cadbury large bars and O'Donnell's sharing crisps, any 3 for €5, and money off vouchers every week on the app. So don't miss our big brand sale and pop in store or online for great savings at Super Value.
Have I got news for you? The Harvey's Point Cabaret is back. Every Wednesday in September and October, Eamon has gathered a galaxy of stars to captivate and entertain. A scrumptious dinner, fabulous entertainment, or a 2-night accommodation package. Harvey's Point Cabaret 074 972 2208 for an immediate reservation or harveyspoint.com.
The Citroën EC4 and all new EC4X are fully electric, so that means zero emissions. Their progressive hydraulic cushion suspension means zero vibrations. Their renowned advanced comfort seating means zero discomfort. And now, their impressive finance offer means % interest rate. Book a test drive today at your local Citroën dealer and zero for yourself.
Getting married. Men's wedding suit packages are now 20% off. Book before August 31st. Evolve Clothing. Letterkenny Retail Park. Terms and conditions apply.
The Northwest Truck Fest returns to Milford Mart this Saturday and Sunday with live music from Norman Borland on Sunday afternoon from 2 till 4 p.m. This ad is sponsored by JD Recovery Services, Kilmacrennan and Donegal Town. 9139303. The 9 till noon show brought to you by the Northwest Truck Fest, taking place this Saturday and Sunday in the grounds of Milford Mart, with proceeds to Donegal Down Syndrome.
Oreo the robot is not just helping staff with service at Kelly's Diner, but he's also adding a little twist to birthdays there. If you're celebrating your birthday at Kelly's, Oreo can be persuaded to sing a very special happy birthday. It's a great treat for small kids and plenty of big kids too. For the chance to see and hear Oreo the robot in action, visit Kelly's award-winning diner today at Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Teagasc are holding a Better Farm Hill Sheep Farm Walk on the farm of Paul Boyle, Tymeen, Letterbarrow, County Donegal, F94VW74. This Thursday, 24th of August at 6:30 p.m. Focus on store lamb options and preparing for breeding. All are welcome.
Did you know Cool Kids Sligo have the biggest range of baby equipment in the Northwest with 25 years of baby expertise? Cool Kids Sligo take deposits on your baby bundle. Visit us in-store at Cool Kids Sligo or shop online at babyaccessories.ie for free nationwide delivery. Make Cool Kids Sligo your #1 destination for all things baby.
Is the appearance of your staff important to your business? It's the first point of contact for customers when entering your premises. At C&M Embroidery in Letterkenny, they have a huge range of clothing covering all areas of the workplace. It's widely known that customers warm to and trust employees that present themselves well. Have your company name embroidered or printed on all your work uniforms. Contact C&M Embroidery on 07491 28097 and get your staff looking their best.
It's the Northwest Truck Fest at Milford Mart this weekend. Highlights include Truck Lights display on Saturday at 9 and on Sunday it's the convoy of trucks through Milford at 5. This ad is sponsored by K&F Superwools 9139043.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the news desk. A 50-year-old man is due in court in County Derry today, charged in relation to this month's PSNI data breach. The man, who's due before Coleraine magistrates, also faces charges of possessing articles for use in terrorism. Delays to the approval of some cancer drugs mean doctors cannot prescribe the appropriate treatment for 1 in 4 patients. Oncologists say it relates to high-cost anti-cancer drugs such as immunotherapies. At the moment, new drugs must go through an extensive HSE approval process once they're initially approved by the European Medicines Agency, and that can take around 2 years. Consultant and Irish Society of Medical Oncology Secretary Michael McCarthy says these delays are unsustainable.
We're not talking about chemotherapies. We're specifically talking about high-cost anti-cancer drugs, for example, immunotherapies. For those drugs, I cannot just prescribe these medications. They have to be approved for reimbursement by the HSE. The remaining challenges, I think, centre around the pace of change in innovation and also delays from the time of approval by the European Medicines Agency to actual access for Irish cancer patients.
Early Childhood Ireland says Donegal's children are being let down because of a decades-long focus on providing childcare for economic reasons. The organisation, which has 115 members in Donegal, is calling on government and policymakers to completely rethink their approach to early years and school-age care. CEO Teresa Heaney says the emphasis has been on facilitating parents' access to the workforce rather than meeting the needs of children. She says that must change as the summer break comes to an end.
All of our staff are professionally trained and qualified. We have a very high level of graduates leading the early years education in settings around the country. So while some people might casually or flippantly talk about our sector as for babysitting, that's not the case. Nobody would ever think about schools in that way, and certainly Early Childhood Ireland wouldn't think of its members in that way.
The government is being urged to get on with it and make a decision over the future funding of RTE. It was suggested an overhaul of the licence fee is on the cards because of lower levels of payment as a result of recent controversies. The government's being given a series of options around the long-term future funding for the broadcaster. The CEO of Shinawil says governments are elected to make decisions, and that's what they should do.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel here. There's lots of examples, but we just need to make a decision and get on with it. And these are hard decisions. And we as an Irish people haven't been great at taking hard decisions. It's time to be led by, their leaders and get on with it.
EU Commissioner Mairead McGuinness says measures will be taken to ensure a European budget that's fit for purpose is passed. The European budget is due to be reviewed this autumn with a large allocation set to go to Ukraine. A warning was issued at the McGill Summer School in recent days that it may be one of the biggest issues coming down the tracks for Irish citizens. Commissioner McGuinness says a very close look needs to be taken at how the EU budget is structured.
I think we need to revise our view of not only the size of the budget, but also allocations to the budget. Conscious as well that we have a war in Ukraine and that we're supporting Ukraine. It's not something that people should fear, but it is something we need to prepare for. I mean, we're talking about enlargement now. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen over time. We will have to decide on the shape of the budget if and when enlargement arrives, and you need to start planning that process now.
Nearly 40% of people who are blind or visually impaired have been injured by footpath obstacles. That's the finding of a new survey among NCBI service users as its Clear Our Paths campaign gets underway. Cars parked on footpaths were the most common obstacles they came across, followed by dog fouling and wheelie bins. Access and Mobility Manager with the National Council for the Blind, Chantel Smith, has been outlining some of the injuries sustained.
Very serious injuries associated with unnecessary obstacles on footpaths. One individual sustained a broken ankle as a result of the unexpected street furniture on a footpath. We've had another person indicate that they couldn't pass on one side of a vehicle, so they had to go onto the road. And that's when they had a trip and went down and sprained their wrist.
And there'll be more on that story on the 9 till noon show with Greg very shortly. Weather forecast now. Met Aaron tell us to expect wind today. Very windy with outbreaks of rain developing. That'll turn heavier as we get into the afternoon. Southwest winds fresh to strong and gusty. Top temperatures today 17 to 19 degrees Celsius. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news headlines again at 11 o'clock. Until then, from the news team, good morning. The obituary notices for this Monday morning, the 21st of August. The death has occurred of Anna Duffy, Lohanure, Annagree. Her remains will repose at her home from 12 noon today and 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Rosary at 8 p.m. with house private pleas after the Rosary nightly and on the morning of the funeral. Funeral on Wednesday morning at 11 in Star of the Sea Church, Annagree, followed by burial in the new cemetery. Family flowers only please. Donations if desired to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member or Sean Medlin, funeral director. The death has taken place of John Kilcullen, Ran Letterkenny, formerly of Emily Moran, Castleconnor, Sligo. John's remains will repose at his late residence from 12 noon until 10 p.m. with Rosary nightly at 9. Funeral from his residence on Wednesday afternoon at 12:15 for 1 o'clock Requiem Mass in St Eunan's Cathedral, Letterkenny, which can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Interment afterwards in Newleck Cemetery, Letterkenny, with family time please on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only please. Donations in lieu if desired to the St Eunan's Cathedral Building Fund, care of any family member. The death has occurred of Danny Langan, 54, Massinus Cottages, Creasla. His remains will repose at his late residence from 11 o'clock this morning. Funeral Mass in St Michael's Church, Creasla on Wednesday at 12 noon, with burial afterwards in Doe Cemetery. The funeral Mass can be viewed live on mcnmedia.tv. Family time please from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member or James Harkin, funeral director. The death has taken place of Barbara Murray, née Herity, 4 Schliefsnocht Road, Letterkenny. Barbara's remains will repose at Eternal Light Chapel of Rest, Mountain Top, Letterkenny, from 5 p.m. until 6:30 today, with removal afterwards to St Eunan's Cathedral to repose overnight. Funeral Mass tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock, which can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Interment afterwards in Newleck Cemetery, Letterkenny. The death has occurred of Claire Hannigan, née Ronahan, 3 Knocknamona Terrace, Letterkenny, reposing at her late residence from 12 noon until Rosary at 9 o'clock this evening. Funeral from there tomorrow to St Eunan's Cathedral for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, which can be viewed on churchservices.tv, followed by burial in the family plot in Conwall Cemetery. Family time please before the funeral tomorrow. Family flowers only please. Donations if desired to the Friends of Letterkenny University Hospital, care of Pascal Blake, funeral director. The death has occurred of Coleman Doherty, Ollie. Coleman's remains are reposing at his daughter Sandra's residence at Carrick Bray, Carndonagh. Requiem Mass tomorrow in Church of the Sacred Heart, Carndonagh at 11 o'clock, with interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only please. Donations in lieu to Inishowen Hospice, Carndonagh. House private please from 11 o'clock tonight. Coleman's funeral mass can be viewed live on churchmedia.tv. The death has occurred of Seamus McDevitt, Barrick, Glenswilly. Reposing at his late residence from 12 noon until 10 p.m. today. Funeral Mass tomorrow at 12 noon in St Columba's Church, Glenswilly, with burial afterwards in Kilfeek Cemetery. Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family time, please, before the funeral tomorrow. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member, or Con MacDade, funeral director. The death has occurred of Patrick Gallagher, Donegal Road, Killybegs. Reposing at his late residence from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. today. Removal tomorrow morning at 10:30 to St Mary of the Visitation Church, Killybegs, for 11 o'clock funeral mass. Burial afterwards in the local cemetery. Mass will be streamed live on mcnmedia.tv. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member, or MacBrearty funeral directors. The death has taken place of Martin Ward, 1 Ardbawn, Long Lane, Letterkenny. Remains reposing at St Eunan's Cathedral, Letterkenny, with Requiem Mass this morning at 11 o'clock, followed by interment in Leck Cemetery. And the death has taken place of Kathleen Orr, née McColgan, 38, Ellamore Park, Gallia, Derry. Kathleen's Requiem Mass will take place this morning at 11 in Sacred Heart Church, Muff, followed by burial in the adjoining graveyard. The Mass can be viewed live on mcnmedia.tv. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
I'm Daniel.
Siobhan.
Guess where I like to shop?
Bet it's Aldi. I just like how much I can get for my money.
You can feed the family for great value at Aldi.
And I like the specially selected range.
Like Ireland's first ever Diamond Taste Award winner, specially selected dry-aged Black Angus ribeye steak.
It's quality.
So if you like great value and award-winning Irish steaks, it's got to be Aldi, Ireland's most reputable supermarket.
You're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show, 11 minutes past 10. Good morning if you're just after joining us. And another good morning to Margaret, Christina, Anya, Audrey and Michael watching the show on our YouTube and Facebook channels. Don't forget, you can watch on YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland, on your smart TV, your Fire Stick, your laptop, tablet, whichever way you like. You can rewind as well, or watch back at your leisure. You can also give us a call. Give us a call. You can also watch on Facebook, Highland Hub, Highland Radio News and Sport. Good to have you all on board there. And Margaret has a consistent problem with mouth and words being out of sync, which is really quite annoying. But Margaret, it's a local problem to you now. I'm not really quite sure what might be causing that to you, but it's not on my end. There's not much I can do for you. Now, I just want to mention that you are being invited to enter the great Mega Castro here. I forgot what it was called. The Mega Castro here on Highland Radio. We have given away already, if I'm not mistaken, quite a lot of money. £5,000, 2 by £2.5 grand. There's still a lot of money up for grabs. We've got €10,000 to give away on this programme on the 1st of September. Before that, on Lee Gucci's show, there's £2.5 grand to give away. And this coming Friday on David James's Jive Time, there is another £2.5 grand. So we have €15,000 up for grabs. If you've bought a ticket already, you are guaranteed to be in those draws. No worries there. But if you haven't, now's the time to get your ticket because you are in with a chance of winning on 3 draws. How do you win? You go onto the website, you click buy a ticket. You answer a simple question, you get your tickets. A single ticket's €10. You can get 1 for free if you buy 5, and you can get 2 for free if you buy 8. Of course, only do so if you can afford to and have a bit of fun with it, like playing the lotto or something like that there. And you could be with a chance of winning £2.5 grand on this coming Friday, £2.5 grand the following Friday, and then 10,000 in 2 weeks' time on this programme. So you can get your tickets online, just buy one or group in with others to get free ones. It's up to you. Go to our website, draw.highlandradio.com, or just go to highlandradio.com and click in. And it's a really simple, safe process for you to do online. Now, if you want to, you can also give us a call here on 07491 25,000. Katie will sort your tickets out for you safely and securely. No worries like that. And you can also call in to the Mountaintop Letterkenny during office hours and buy your tickets as well. Right, well done to Naren and the people there for the great facility and the motorised chair there for people with disabilities. Indeed, a brilliant initiative. Hi, Greg. I was at the Ironman Challenge at the weekend and I had a feeling that it was a disaster waiting to happen. In relation to deaths at these events, the decision to continue, I'm not sure why, but this is across the world, regardless of facilities at these or fatalities at these events, it does continue. I know in rally sport it's cancelled, but it's not uncommon for these type of events to continue. And indeed, and I don't know enough to comment about it. And I think sometimes, particularly radio presenters can jump in with their 2 feet. Watching, I'll tell you what my initial reaction was. Watching as they entered the sea looked really, really rough. But they have done this before, I presume, and it would have been very difficult swimming out to the buoy and back. But then again, who's to say what caused these gentlemen's deaths either? They're incredibly, incredibly sad, but I don't know enough to sort of go, oh, well, that shouldn't have happened or that should have happened. I really simply just don't know. But thank you for your insight as someone who's attended these events. The nurse has been sentenced to capital punishment by LAG, and she knows it's only a question of when. Greg, I only wish my electric bill was $300 for 2 months. My last one that came in July for May and June was €577. A dread what a winter one is going to cost. I wonder what is causing that. I mean, is it these pumps in modern houses? They have like 577 seems really high for the summer. Like I did feel I got away with it a little bit at 290. I'm not going to lie to you. But what are your average bills coming in? Can you let us know? We'll get a sense of it. Just simply text in how much your bill was. Yeah, your most recent summer bill, and we'll see if we can sort of get an average. And if there's any particular circumstances that you think is driving it up or bringing it down, text 086 60 25,000. So mine was 290. I think Ashleen's was 390. And this listener's was 577, so they're going up. So let us know what you think, or not. Let us know what your bill was, and we'll see if we can get sort of an average. Right, let us see here. This one almost slipped away. A complete whitewash with energy companies. The bills just keep going up and up, believes that caller there. Yeah, and it does feel like that, doesn't it? Just listening to that gentleman talking about toilet facilities for people with disability and wheelchair users, I would like to mention about my daughter who went out at the weekend to a very popular public licence premises here in Donegal with her friends. She had to leave these premises to go to a local hotel down the street to get a suitable toilet. I said this on the show before, socialising. It was only when I was socialising with a relative who's a wheelchair user that I realised that just because there's a door with a wheelchair on it, it doesn't mean it's actually a usable toilet. And this is for a healthy, strong, upper-bodied person. It doesn't always tell the full story. Sometimes it's just a sign on a door, really, and the facilities aren't suitable for someone to go in, turn and come back out again. The National Museum in Kildare Street, Dublin, isn't accessible above the ground floors. There is no lift. They've been making excuses for years. Inclusion? What inclusion, asks this listener. Another. I was in Derry last week with my 3-year-old. I couldn't get a toilet for her. I asked in 4 different shops and eventually went into a furniture shop where the staff were very lovely and let us use their toilet. It's a disgrace there are no facilities and has got worse since COVID. They just don't seem to want the hassle anymore. It's these shops, but like... Again, I don't know the ups and downs of the situation, but we can't always rely on private companies to provide what should be public facilities either. Have things changed in terms of accessibility to toilets in public shops? This caller says particularly in Derry they feel it has. Hi, Greg. I was in Letterkenny on Saturday around lunchtime. It was a complete disaster to get around the town. It's destroyed with traffic lights and still more going up. Said that to the wife. Derry from next week on for my shopping. Now, there was a big event in Letterkenny at the weekend. Now, maybe you weren't aware, so there were certain road closures to facilitate a parade and to facilitate a concert and street events. So it was going to be particularly busy at the weekend. So maybe give it another try next weekend before you decide that maybe you want to go somewhere else. Greg, could you please wish Grania and Michael McDevitt, Curran in Ballabafay, or Currain, I beg your pardon, Ballabafay, a very happy golden wedding anniversary from Tommy and Breed. Grania and Michael McDevitt in Currain, Ballabafay, happy golden wedding anniversary to you. Please play Return to Sender by Elvis from my mum Kathleen Woods from Rafo, from your loving daughter Pauline Larkin in Letterkenny. Another happy golden wedding anniversary to Grania and Michael McDevitt in Carrane Buffet. From all the family, please play Walk of Life. Well, I don't play much music on this show because we've so much chat to get through, but someone will definitely play those songs for you later. Danny Quigley will be doing a charity swim starting this morning at the bridge in Lifford to the Atlantic Ocean to raise awareness for suicide prevention. There's a GoFundMe page called Celebration of Life for those who wish to donate. Okay, back with more guests after we take a quick break for the bingo numbers.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Monday, the 21st of August. You're playing on the green sheet. The reference number is S6. It's game number 34. The numbers are 9, 11, 39, 69, 78, 59, 70, 90, 40, and finally 87. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
With electrified finance rates available exclusively at iMotors. Find out how affordable our used electrical vehicles are with finance rates from 3.9% on all used electrical vehicles at iMotors. Low finance, no fuel bills. Doesn't it sound like the perfect second car for your household? Call in to Letterkenny or Malin to find out more or visit imotors.ie.
Bundoran presents Ireland's biggest indoor dancing festival, the World Matchmaking Festival, in 4 venues for 10 days, 10 nights, September 29th to October 8th. Starring 35 bands including Tumbling Paddies, Derek Ryan, David James, Declan Nerney, plus Blind Date and Speed Dating. Book now for accommodation and entertainment package deals. Log on to showtours.ie or call Show Tours on 0818 300 888. Meet your match in Bundoran.
Brian McCormick, Sports and Leisure, Main Street, Letterkenny. Looking for the triple black option. Vans Selden with a leather upper, only €60. Save €15. Adidas and Nike triple black trainers will have you ready for back to school. Kids footwear from Nike, Adidas, Asics and Vans in all sizes. Get the trainer that fits you best by using your safe size experience and get to know your feet. Brian McCormick, Sports and Leisure. Click on bmcsports.ie and get your free delivery.
It's the 9 till noon show in association with the Northwest Truck Fest this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart, with live music, family fun, a truck convoy and much more.
Okay, Liam O'Donnell is Secretary of Carrigan's Tidy Towns and he joins us now. Hi Liam, thanks for joining us this morning. I wish it were under different circumstances, but here we are.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks a million for giving us a chance to come on the radio and speak with you about the bit of vandalism that happened in the village last week.
Right. Tell us what happened.
Literally, we put up a lovely old-style pump and a number of planter boxes on either side of it in order to protect it. They're really substantial, really heavy, and someone last Thursday night, it appears, deliberately had to be done with the vehicle, reversed into or whatever, moved one of the planter boxes down on top of the pump and damaged the planter box, and left the community and the committee obviously very disappointed that it happened. It's the second time that it's happened. The items were funded by local fundraising activities for the community. The street is known as Pump Street, and a pump used to be there years ago, and this was one of the things that we did to try and enhance the village through funding as well from the Donegal County Council, and we find that people just can't leave it alone. Some people or persons or whatever have deliberately damaged the item, and it wasn't easily done.
What be's going through people's heads, do you think? I mean, how do you do it?
I don't know, Greg. It's just unbelievably disappointing, and we'd really seek the public's help in identifying the culprits, perpetrators, as something needs to be done about it. We've reported the incident to the local Gardaí. and we would ask that anybody in the locality, if they had any idea or if they want to do it in secreto, just report it to the guards or call into one of the other local stations, Newton Cunningham or even Lifford or whatever, and report it anonymously. We don't mind. It's just that we just need to try and stamp this out. I believe that there was some serious vandalism in Ballybuffet last week, and I'm not saying it's the same people, but it's just hard to know, Greg. What's
just hard to get inside
people's
people's heads because, as you say, right, and people watching will be able to see the images that you posted on your social media. These the planter boxes, as you call them, these are big items. Now, what would it take to push one of those as far as they did and to cause that level of damage? Whatever they used, it damaged. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't... this is not something you could do physically. Even a group of people, I think, would struggle to move them in the fashion that they did.
Very much so. In placing them there, we used a tractor and a forklift, and as the fellows that were there specifically to protect the pump that was positioned between them, and obviously substantial effort was made with we believe a vehicle of some kind in order to move them again. It's extremely disappointing. No, I'll put it like this, Greg. I don't think a group of young lads did it. As the fellow says, if it's somebody with a damaged vehicle or whatever that maybe came down the street, maybe not in full control of their vehicle or whatever, or otherwise, we're just seeking the public's help. If there's anybody with any information out there, we would ask them, even if they want to do it anonymously, just to report it to us, to give us an idea of what way we can approach trying to,
because
get some resolution to it.
Yeah, there's a couple of things going on here. Firstly, it's a sickening thing because this is a community presentation, a community facility. It cost not insignificant amount of money, €1,000. Local people donated, through fundraisers to get that in situ. It's a beautiful old pump. It looks like the handle has been broken off it. And then, do you have the heart to put it back again until such time as someone does something stupid to it again? Do you know what I mean? It's that. Now, I know it's Monday morning and things might feel a bit different in the afternoon or tomorrow, but that's what you'd wake up feeling like. What's the bloody point?
Well, that's it. It's the second time that it's been vandalised, and as such, where the first time you can put it down to, okay, we'll replace it and get it sorted out, but unfortunately on this occasion it's much more substantial, and it does really take the good out of the effort that the community put into and the committee to try and replace something that was obviously there previously historically, and just a wee nod to the name of the street. It's Pump Street, and a wee nod to the facility was there and utilised in the past by the residents,
And it's the type of thing too that tourists visiting the area will take a wee picture of, because the Pump Street sign's behind it, and there's there's some butterfly graphics behind it. I mean, it was a pretty thing. Right. It's a shame. Hopefully, someone out there has a conscience or knows something and passes the info on, because it's not the first time, and one would like to be confident that it wouldn't happen again. But that's only going to happen if the person faces some sort of a sanction or what have you. So I hope there's a resolution.
Hopefully.
All right, I really do.
Hopefully, Greg, and thank you very much for giving us airtime.
No, as I say, Liam, next time we talk, make sure it's about something positive and we can promote the Carrigans for all the good it has. But it's important we get this stuff out too, isn't it, Liam?
It is indeed.
All right,
indeed, Greg.
Take care of yourself.
Thank you very
Thanks
much, sir.
very much. All right, bye-bye. Liam O'Donnell, Secretary of Carrigan's Tidy Towns there. I don't know why that stuff happens. I don't know what is going through people's heads. A caller says, enjoyed the World Cup over the past month. Thought England were physically powerful, athletic, spirited and an honest, hard-working outfit. Spain's skill level, possession, first touch and passing was a joy to watch. Feared for them during the warm-up, but how small they look compared to the stronger-looking oppositions. Yeah, I thought they were... I enjoyed the World Cup an awful lot more from what I saw without, because I didn't really watch any British media, and I think I couldn't have watched it if you know the way it can be, right? Which is great, it's fine, but if you don't, it can put you off a wee bit too. The game on Sunday morning, I thought England were part of me was watching it going, if Ireland had got a couple of things that went their way or an extra player or two, we could have won that competition. Is that crazy for me to say that? I don't think there was a ton in the top teams. I think Ireland kind of maybe were up there, and if results had went their way, we could have gone really deep into that competition. I don't think there was much there for England. I know they were in terms of the last third, as they say, they didn't seem to have any bite whatsoever. And now I know there were players and suspensions missing, but still, I think the better team won on the day anyway. I think I can say that without any fear of contradiction. Okay, so a new survey, as you would have heard, reveals that nearly 40% of respondents who are blind or vision impaired have been injured by footpath obstacles as Clear Our Paths campaign launches. Now, regular listeners to the show would know that this is something we discuss regularly on this programme, and for good reason, because things aren't seemingly improving. And we were talking about inclusion a little earlier on in terms of toilet facilities and accessibility, but to be able to freely move around like other people can, even if you have a disability, that's a right that people should have. But 4 out of 10 don't feel they have that right, it would seem, as it should be. Graham McGrath, Communications Executive with the National Council for the Blind of Ireland, joins us now. Graham, thank you for your time today. How are you keeping?
Not too bad, Greg. How are you?
I'm okay. So I suppose it's important to do these surveys because then we get a real sense of what people's lived experience is. But Graham, in truth, is there anything about this survey that actually surprised you?
I will say it's not necessarily a surprise, no. The reason we kind of held the survey is because the anecdotal evidence that we've been given on the kind of front lines from the people who use NCBI services. Every day we hear of stories about people encountering something on a footpath that either seriously injured them or seriously kind of worried them if they weren't injured. So I wouldn't say anything was a surprise really. The top 3 obstacles that we encountered, just so people know, cars parked on footpaths was a huge one. Now I will say, from my own experience and having spoke to some of our service users and some of our advocates, that was maybe a surprise. We've known the likes of dog fouling, and we know wheelie bins is a big one for people. But cars parked on footpaths came out as a kind of clear issue for people, and I think members of the public, it's one of those things. You might park a car on a footpath as you run into the shop to buy a pint of milk or whatever it might be, and you don't really think about those 2 or 3 minutes that you're in the shop. That temporary obstacle in the form of your car can really cause serious injury or distress to people who are blind or vision impaired. It's not only that they could walk into the car, if a footpath is sufficiently blocked, it may force people out onto the street, and that's where we know people are getting injured.
Yeah, and the examples given, one person came across street furniture, sustained a broken ankle. Again, street furniture comes up regularly in this programme. You mentioned cars and also hanging branches, overgrown branches scraping people's faces. That comes up quite a bit on this programme as well, because some of them can really dangle, people will know they've had to move their head to avoid it, but if you can't see it, you're not able to do that. Now, you see, it's not only those instances which are really important, Graham, I presume, to highlight what we're talking about. It's then the sense people have as to, is it about to happen? Or, the anticipation of it because it's happened before and they expect that. And it must be a very difficult way to move around your towns and villages wondering, am I about to hit something that shouldn't be there? Am I about to get a branch in the face that shouldn't be there? So it's not actually the instances, but I presume it's the sense and even the fear and trepidation that it brings to people.
Absolutely. Again, one of the questions in the survey, we asked people. We asked the respondent had running into one of these obstacles or coming across one of the obstacles affected their confidence to get out and about independently. And nearly 70% of people who responded to the survey did say that it affected their confidence. Now that's a huge thing. NCBI works with service users all over Ireland. to kind of to train and to make sure that people are able to keep that independence and when they get out and about. And confidence is a big aspect of that. You can imagine if someone has acquired sight loss and they've been used to maybe walking down the street freely all their life, and then they've learned all these new skills and learned how to navigate a town in a safe manner. Then you run into an obstacle like that, and it bumps your confidence, and it can affect how people get out and about, and then that all kind of snowballs as well. That can have effects on people's social lives if they're afraid to get out and about. It can affect people in so many ways.
Yeah.
So
and people have no-go areas,
right.
don't they? I'm not going near there because such and such. Now, listen, a lot of this is common sense stuff, and maybe it's a bit of ignorance in that, if you park that car there, do you consider, well, what would happen if such and such a situation occurred, i.e. someone needed to get past, or someone was in a wheelchair, or someone was pushing a buggy? If you don't pick up the dog poo, do you a lot of this can be fixed with just basic consideration for your fellow man and woman. Do you know what I mean? We don't need legislation and referendums and this is just to say, right, if I do something, what are the potential consequences of it, i.e. just thinking about your community.
Of course. In theory, it's a really easy fix. We're asking, from our perspective, we're exactly like you mentioned, we're just asking people to kind of put yourself in the shoes of someone who might be blind or vision impaired. And when those people want to get out and about and just live their lives like anybody else would. And just kind of think about those small actions that you have. When you put your bins out, and they're collected. Everybody has seen then what's left is the bins kind of strewn across the path. Just kind of think to yourself, if you get up in the morning, right, I better run out and make sure those bins aren't blocking the path. Or the same with your car. Just take the extra minute or two to maybe find a more suitable parking spot if you're running into the shop, or if you're out with your dog. To just pick up after them. They really are simple fixes to this. And we don't want to bash any members of the public at all. But it's to ask to just the consideration. Put yourself in a person who is blind or vision impaired. Put yourself in their shoes and think how distressing it would be if you're using your white cane and it's touching off the ground, obviously, and it runs through dog poo, and then you pick that up and they might not know, and they pick it up and it's on their hands. That's not a nice experience for anybody, and it's easily fixable by just picking up after your dog.
Right, okay. And in terms of awareness, there is NCBI has a web page aimed at supporting members of the public just to maybe get an understanding and say, right, I might think a little bit different going forward. What is the URL? How do people find that information, Graham?
So if anybody is interested to have a look, all they have to do is go on to www.ncbi.ie. On the very front of our homepage, there is a navigation to the specific page for clearer paths, and the information on there just allows people to have a little bit more background if they want to chat to their friends, their family, just to kind of help them then inform the people who are around them. So we'd encourage people to go on there and have a read and have a think. All
right, Graham, thanks for your time. Graham McGrath, Communications Executive with the NCBI. Via email, it's naive to think that anyone in Russia can speak the truth about their lives in Russia. They and their families would be instantly arrested. That comes in from Grania. And Grania, that's exactly the point, isn't it? Because the narrative is that Russia as a whole is for this or engaged in it and supporting it. But as you say yourself, that may not be the case, but we don't hear those nuances. It's just, if you read the news or listen to the news, you'll see that it's just Russia, not the Russian leadership per se. So I think that's the point. And you've made it there to some extent. Ask the teenagers what are their chosen careers to see why they couldn't see a future in Donegal. Don't all young people want to get away from the family home? It's part of growing up. Well, they might do, but more and more are living at home well into their late 20s now. Such is the world that we created for them, that their aspirations to move into another house aren't achievable here. And that's the problem. They can go abroad and fulfill that rite of passage, you could call it. What's happening now is people are moving home in their 20s, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. What was the figure? 60%? Now, Liv, what's wrong, Caroline? Do you want to speak to me? Speak away there. Don't be shy. I do have 2 ad breaks. Okay? Don't be shy, Caroline. I just wish what you say in my ear went out on air as well. That'd be fun. I was looking at the photos from a recent Gale School prom. Prizes were given for best dressed, teacher's pet, etc. A bit of crack, but the sashes were written in English. I know it was only a bit of crack, but surely a Gaelic-speaking school should keep all those things related to the language they are taught in. Doing it in English kind of made me think this is typical. The school teaches in Irish, but students clearly revert back to English in everyday life, so what's the point? I don't know what you're talking of. Look, I know what you're talking of, what you're trying to explain. Is it possible that one of the students got a hold of a few of the sashes that were already in English and they just went with it for the crack? I don't know. But I take your point. Thank you. The exhaust of a motorbike fell off on the long lane between St Johnstone and Newtown Cunningham last night between 10 and 9 p.m. 10 to 9 and 9 p.m, sorry. Very specific. It's of great sentimental value as the bike belonged to a loved one. So did you find the exhaust of a motorbike on the long lane between St Johnstone and Newtown Cunningham last night between 10 to 9 and 9? So a very specific window. It's of great sentimental value. So if you saw that or know where it is, please let us know and then we can let that person know. Right. Here's an interesting one that was posted at the weekend of the week. And can you match this? A lady, a friend on Facebook posted this. I'm just letting people know about our health system. My husband's mother, who is dead for 37 years, got a hospital appointment yesterday to go to Killybegs Community Hospital on Tuesday to get x-rays on both knees and a chest x-ray. So this lady, God rest her soul, has been passed for 37 years. The letter is her date of birth, which is in 1903, which obviously would leave her 120. Some health system, slow but sure, they say. So they're able to see, I think, a little bit of the... now, we do get these letters when someone's recently passed and it can be really quite hurtful. But this lady, dead for 37 years... may she rest in peace. Born in 1903, she was called to Killybegs Community Hospital on Tuesday to get x-rays on both knees and a chest x-ray. If she were alive, she'd be 120, so she'd also be the oldest person in the country. I bet you no one can match that. Can you match that? I don't know how that might have happened, but that would make you think that the whole appointment system needs curating, doesn't it? That it needs looked at. They need to hire a team in to come and say, right, what's going on here? We've just sent out a reminder letter to a 120-year-old lady who's actually dead for 37 years. As I say, it may have caused some upset, but I think judging by the way it's been described, that's not the principal issue here. Have you ever seen anything like that? I've seen the letters, by the way, in case you think that's just something that's been made up or fabricated. It happened. A lady passed for 37 years, but would be 120 if alive, called for x-rays on her knees and chest on Tuesday in Killybegs.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show brought to you by the Northwest Truck Fest, taking place this Saturday and Sunday in the grounds of Milford Mart, with proceeds to Donegal Down syndrome.
Are the signs of aging creeping up on you? Are you not happy with the way you look or feel? At Letterkenny Medics Private Clinic, we're here to help you, offering Botox anti-wrinkle injections, derma fillers, skin bio injections, Botox treatment for grinding and clenching teeth, hyperhidrosis that aids excessive sweating. Let our doctors help bring back your confidence and look after what is important to you. To see what real results really look like, book your immediate appointment with no waiting time at letterkennymedics.ie. Letterkenny Medics, we listen if you want to talk.
It's the Northwest Truck Fest at Milford Mart this weekend. Highlights include truck lights display on Saturday at 9 and on Sunday it's the convoy of trucks through Milford at 5. This ad is sponsored by KNF Superwools 9139043.
Did you know there are more places than ever to top up your TFI Leap card? Well, now you do. You can buy and top up TFI Leap cards in over 2,500 agents, including all post offices. You can also top up your TFI Leap card with the Leap Top Up app on iPhone and Android. And remember, young adult and student leap cards can only be ordered online. To download the app and find your nearest agent, go to leapcard.ie.
Have you just completed the Leaving Certificate? Or maybe you're a parent or a guardian of a Leaving Certificate student? Perhaps you would like to study but haven't made a CAO application and would like to find out more about our available places? At Atlantic Technological University, we combine practical learning with brilliant student supports. Come along to ATU Donegal's Information Day on Friday, 1st of September from 11 a.m. till 4 p.m. and discuss your offer and options with our supportive staff. ATU Donegal, your future is here.
It's the 9 till noon show in association with the Northwest Truck Fest this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart with live music, family fun, a truck convoy and much more.
It's the home of the vegan butchers, the artisan bakers, the freestyle lyricists, and the trouser suit striders. It's the urban jungle, where the everyday meets the latest wave. And you could see it all from your Seat SUV. From the sharp lines and smart style of the Arona to the bold and beautiful Ateca. And if size is your thing, the Tarraco comes as a 7-seater. See what's in store at seat.ie for our latest offers. And visit DMG Motors, Clough Road, Donegal Town. Because your new Seat is just waiting to see what's next.
There's bingo every Monday night at Halfway House Bingo Burnfoot. Doors open at 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €1,300 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
Beat your personal best with top brands and premium running footwear from Michael Murphy Sports in Letterkenny. There's new arrivals from Asics, New Balance, Brooks, Adidas and Under Armour in a range of structured and neutral styles. There's also free next day delivery on orders over €85 at michaelmurphysports.ie.
The Redcastle Oceanfront Golf and Spa Hotel would like to invite you to their wedding fair on Sunday, 3rd of September from 2 till 5 p.m. Meet the wedding team, top industry suppliers with breathtaking views, refreshments and great incentives for bookings made on the day. For more information, please contact events@redcastlehotel.com.
If you've a free travel pass, remember to use it on the Expressway network. It's the perfect way to catch up with friends, see your grandchildren and those you love. So use your free travel pass today. You can also book a seat online in advance at expressway.ie and get priority boarding for just €2 per journey. It's just the ticket to enjoy more.
All right, so we were asking you what your electricity bills were, just to sort of get a sense of an average. And I'm not feeling too bad about mine at the moment. Energia went from €528 in April, May in contract to €738 June, July out of contract. That is massive. My electricity bills equalised over 12 months. This means that the winter bills are the same as summer. I find this very convenient as there are no surprises. Annual bill is estimated on previous year's usage and is adjusted annually. Sometimes there is a credit. My last bill was €514. Previous one was €663. We've nothing different in our house. Average bill used to be €200 to €250. As I say, mine was €290. I'm not feeling. I'm worried now that I'm going to get a big bill after the fact. Electric €455 another. My no ESB bill used, but over 400 a few years ago. But got meter in. I top up 20 or 50 or 10 when I have it. Think it's the best thing ever to have it in the house. Have it 4 or 5 years. Would not be without it. That's pay as you go, isn't it? €411 electricity bill for a family of 4. That's the most recent. And still they come in. Keep the electricity bills coming in. It seems they're really, really quite high. Right, now, there is a new project exploring LGBTI plus history, and it's being unveiled in the Donegal County Museum. Judith McCarthy of the Donegal County Museum, in fact, its curator, joins us now in studio. Good morning to you. How are you getting on, Judith?
Good morning, not too bad.
Okay, so talk to us about the background to this project.
Okay, well, it started off as a project in the National Museum of Ireland called Rainbow Revolution Trail in 2019. And what they did was they curated a series of stories, archival material, etc., telling the kind of history of the LGBTQ plus kind of story and how things have changed over the last 30, 40, 50 years. And it included material from an RTE filmmaker called Edmund Lynch, who'd created a documentary called A Different Country. And he had interviewed some very well-known household names who have played a role in this history. People such as Nell McCafferty, Gay Byrne, our previous presidents, Mary McAleese and Mary Robinson, who were all very vocal in terms of supporting the LGBT plus community. So subsequent to the launch in the National Museum, we worked with them to actually bring it out to all of the 12 local authority museums. So there are 12 local authority museums in the country. Mm-hmm. So each of us now have this digital podium that tell these stories. And the idea is that in each community then, so in each county, say for instance here in Donegal, we will add to that story.
Has that journey begun yet in terms of adding to that story? Because this is a national picture that's currently on display.
No, the journey has actually just begun here in Donegal. There's a project that just got funding this year called LGBTQ plus Heritage. They got funding through the Heritage Council, and they are starting to collect stories from Donegal. So they've just started on that process. They've created a website where you can feed into the process, or you can contact them. They have an email address that you can contact them on, and they're starting that. So when those become available, there'll be an archive, and there'll also be stories, oral histories that we can then put on our digital podium and share with.
And is it sort of, you know, all elements of it? I mean, for a lot of people listening now who are in that community, their story is one of moving away or hiding who they were, or living as, you know, living a different life publicly as privately.
Absolutely, yes. And it's about people wanting, if they want to share their stories. Mm-hmm. Not everybody is in a space where they want to do that.
Not everyone wants to be part of a movement. They just want to live their life.
Absolutely. But if they do want to be part of this and want to share their stories, then they can do that by contacting the project, and we will then in turn assist them in sharing those stories with the public. And it may be just that they, you know, it might be in terms of letters home, it might be in terms of their oral history, they're actually telling their story, it might be in terms of photographs. And also, as you say, it might not be their story here in Donegal. They may have been born and raised in Donegal, but they may have moved away to live a life in Dublin or in London or in America. And that's part of their story as well. It's part of the story that they have to tell.
Yeah, and we don't really know how it's going to go in Donegal here yet, which is kind of interesting, isn't it?
No, absolutely not. Well, you never do when you're starting on any project, really. You know,
it's not often we kind of get to have a conversation at the beginning of something, do you?
No, absolutely. And it is very, very much the beginning, the very early stages. So we have absolutely no idea. But I always say about projects like this, often the end result isn't what's important. It's the journey. Yeah. It's the journey through the process and the project, and meeting people and talking to people. And even if those conversations never become public, they have to be of benefit to everybody, I think.
For sure. I mean, we are too, coincidentally, just off the back of the first ever Pride Parade in Letterkenny. I think Buncrana had its first this year or last year. Second. Yes, they had their second last year. Last year was its first. Yeah. So you know, it's still way behind. No, it's not for any particular reason as such. It's just in terms of when it was organised. It's not like there was resistance up until now. But my point is that it's just things. I mean, that was a historic moment for some. That would have meant an awful lot to a lot of people on Saturday.
No, I was actually there. I participated as part of LK Fitness, which is a group I'm involved with. We do Zumba and we do Broadway Boogie, and so we participated in the event outside the theatre and also in the parade, and it was amazing. I mean, it really was. There was huge numbers of people. It was a very positive experience.
There's a lot of people. The pictures really.
Yes.
I was Daddy Daycare Saturdays.
Very, very colourful and very broad. Positive.
It was a very broad representation of society.
Very,
as well.
very much so, and a very positive, uplifting experience. And I think, you know, that's where we're moving to.
But do you know what it was? Do you know what these things are too sometimes? And they're just becoming few and far between. And regardless of someone's sexuality or gender or whatever, an opportunity to come together and in a supportive, happy, non-divisive,
celebratory
community. Give us a hug, high five.
Yeah.
Positive, forget everything else. Well, don't forget, you know what I'm on about.
Yes.
It's even that. When was the last time something like that happened? We're always arguing, fighting, disagreeing, counter-protesting.
Well, we're Irish.
Yeah, I know, but isn't it refreshing that it's just,
and it was. I mean,
let's get together and just, as I said before, I haven't said before, someone far more intelligent than I said, there's far much more unites us than divides us, and that's across everything. It's just nice to focus on the unite side of stuff.
And I think so. I mean, and that's part of what we want to try and do in the museum as well. As museums are very much about community and about telling the stories of our communities, and so it's all of our stories. It's not
and those
specific.
stories within the communities. I think people should realise, if they don't, that like in any group of individuals within movements, there are differences of opinion.
Oh, yes.
And some things that people are in favour of and some things that aren't. Just because you are a particular gender or sexuality, it does not mean that you automatically have a certain set of views. But that seems to be lost in a lot of the conversations that are ongoing. I'm not getting into that now, but people are all different.
No, absolutely.
In all different ways.
I think that's key to our understanding of people, is that we are all different.
Yeah.
So, I mean, looking at me, you might think, well, she's a past middle-aged white female, so she must think or believe in a particular way, middle class, of course, museum curator. But that's very, that's not who I am. I'm much more complex than that. And every individual is much more complex. And just because you're part of a community doesn't mean you think exactly the same way as that community does.
Did I hear you say Broadway Zumba? What was
Broadway Boogie?
Boogie.
I do Broadway Boogie. I do Zumba. I also line dance, which people, when they look at me, think, she line dances? I didn't know that.
It's good. So now, how do people access or engage with this project in Letterkenny?
Well, there are two ways. Yeah. Well, there are two ways. First of all, you can simply visit the museum and view the digital stories on our digital podium. It's in our first floor gallery. Come up, have a look at it, and it'll give you an idea of what we have done so far. The LGBTQ plus Heritage Project, they have a website that they're creating at the moment, and they also have an email, which is donegallgbtqheritage@gmail.com, and they can be contacted through that if you want to find out more about their project and maybe get involved in that.
All right. Listen, Judith, let us know if you need any assistance down the line in plugging this further. We appreciate you calling up.
No problem at all.
Touched your water. There we go. Okay. It wasn't wasted. Judith McCarthy, as she sups her water and departs, Donegal County Museum Curator. Thank you so much, Judith, for calling in. It's been lovely having you on the programme. Okay. I pay €129 per month. My direct debit, I checked my account last week and I'm 560 in credit. Okay. 2-month bill, €144 with board gas. That comes in from Colin in Letterkenny. Another last bill, 376 average house, 2 adults, 2 students for the summer holidays. Wow. That's big. These are big bills, people. Keep them coming into us. 086 60 25,000. Someone's kindly, with a smart meter, sent in a breakdown of their bill. We'll go through that after 11. A caller says, "Hi, Greg. You must be living in cloud cuckoo land if you think Ireland could have won the World Cup." Maybe. Maybe I do. But I don't know. My point was, and maybe it was off the back of the final and some of the other games, that the quality, at times was of a level I think we can perform at, right? That's all I'm saying. And yes, maybe it feels like we're living in cloud cuckoo land. I just feel that maybe we're not as far away as one might have thought as it began. If things have kind of gone our way. England had a very lucky ride, I think, into the final and kind of come unstuck then. But anyway, listen, I'm not going to row with you about it, but if you agree or disagree, text 086 60 25,000 and let us know. Culla says, enjoyed the World Cup over the past month. Thought England were physically powerful, athletic, spirited and an honest, hard-working outfit. Spain's skill-level possession, first touch and passing was a joy to watch. I read that one a little earlier on. Thank you for that. Another is a regular attendee of McGill Summer School over the years. I would admit that there is an element of Prime Time Tonight show on tour about it. Same spokespeople, politicians and journalists we see and read in the media with predictable views can be a good social event with interesting chats afterwards, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? Okay, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, and we're not trying to detract from it at all, but listen, we have to be able to have these conversations, and who's to say that things might not improve off the back of them. Okay, Brendan Devaney is going to be joining us very shortly. He's going to be talking about the weekend's GE action, previewing tonight's pod, and also offering his views on Jim McGuinness returning to Donegal.
The 9 till noon show brought to you by the Northwest Truck Fest, taking place this Saturday and Sunday in the grounds of Milford Mart, with proceeds to Donegal Down syndrome.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at The Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system, and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
Looking for the best place in the Northwest to get a bed or mattress? Restex Beds and Mountaintop Letterkenny has a great selection and great prices. Restex Beds has everything you need for a good night's sleep. Visit them today and sleep better tonight.
Andre Rieu's annual Feel Good event is back in Century Cinemas this summer. On the 26th and 27th of August, the King of the Waltz presents Love Is All Around, a brand new concert filled with uplifting music, spectacular performances and romantic waltzes. Book your tickets now at centurycinemas.ie.
Enjoy family fun this Sunday at the Northwest Truck Fest at Milford Mart with Truck Fest Ted, live music and presentation of the Decky Holian and George Tracy Memorial Trophies. This ad is sponsored by Cranford Storm, 9155 633.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon show on Highland Radio.
Okay, it's 11 o'clock, time to get a news update, and we say good morning again to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. 502 admitted patients were awaiting beds in hospitals across the country this morning. Letterkenny University Hospital, the third most overcrowded in the state. INMO figures showing 353 people on emergency department trolleys and 149 on wards and other settings. University Hospital Limerick, worst affected in the country, with 109 patients on trolleys, 48 at Cork University Hospital and 44 in Letterkenny. A 50-year-old man is appearing before Coleraine Magistrates Court in County Derry today, charged in relation to this month's PSNI data breach. He also faces charges of possessing articles for use in terrorism. Delays in the approval of some cancer drugs mean doctors cannot prescribe the appropriate treatment for 1 in 4 patients. Oncologists say it relates to high-cost anti-cancer drugs, such as immunotherapies. At the moment, new drugs must go through an extensive HSE approval process once they're initially approved by the European Medicines Agency. Oncologists say that's taking too long. Early Childhood Ireland says Donegal's children are being let down because of a decades-long focus on providing childcare for economic reasons. The organisation, which has 115 members in Donegal, is calling on government and policymakers to completely rethink their approach to early years and school-age care. They say the emphasis has been on facilitating parents' access to the workforce rather than meeting the needs of children. The Carrigan Study Towns Committee has hit out at a vandalism incident on their installation at Pump Street, which was vandalised last week. On the 9 till noon show today, Secretary Liam O'Donnell outlined how a large planter box was dragged into the pump, damaging both the box and the handle of the pump. He told Greg Hughes a vehicle had to have been used in the incident. He's urging anyone with information to come forward. And Spain's World Cup hero was told after yesterday's match her father had died 2 days earlier. Olga Carmona scored the only goal of the game as Spain beat England 1-0 in Sydney. She posted online, "I know you've been watching me tonight and that you're proud of me. Rest in peace, Dad." The 23-year-old's father had been fighting a long illness. And we're back with news headlines again at 12 noon.
Donald, thank you very much indeed for that. Okay, Brendan Devaney is going to be joining us after we take a very short break.
the environmental emergency. With the problem this big, where do you even start? How about right here with Super Value? Every time we buy from our local producers, every time we cut our food waste, every time we pitch in for our communities, that's real action. Let's forge a more sustainable future from our own homes, stores and towns. Because at Super Value, we believe that every local action makes a global impact. Super Value. Real food, real people, real action.
Okay, we're in studio now with Brendan Devaney, presenter of the DL Debate podcast. Hi, Brendan.
What about you, Greg?
How are you getting on?
I am the very best.
Right, this is a particularly busy weekend. Lots championship started at the weekend, and there's more to look forward to. And of course, there's the big story about Jim McGuinness's imminent return to Donegal.
Jimmy's
Where
winning
do you
matches.
want to start?
My throat's a wee bit croaky this morning. I was going to sing Jimmy's winning matches.
No,
for you.
right. We've got people. We'll get Rory Gallagher to do that.
Rory Gallagher. It's an interesting name to throw out there.
So, of the Revs? Yeah, the
yes,
Revs.
Of the Revs, yeah. And you, which one you bet?
Yeah, all right. Come here. So it's a done deal now. There's a meeting amongst clubs this evening. It's an interesting one. Like, you know, I only want to be positive about it, but it'll be interesting to see how he reflects on this in a year or two.
Yeah, as ever, from the last process, I suppose, we were looking for somebody like a front runner, someone who we really wanted to get the job. The people we approached last time, nobody seemed to want it, and then we pulled together this management team and went on to have a very tough season. So for someone like Jim to come back into the picture, it's absolutely massive. And I think this is going for quite a few weeks now, Greg. And even probably by the time the selection committee was assembled, there was a strong rumour that Jim was in the background. Maybe they were assembled in case that didn't work, but it seemed to be from a good few weeks back that I'd heard that they were in talks. Once they're in talks, a lot of people can't understand what's the issue, but there's a lot of finer detail in here. You know, obviously Jim's coming in full time. That needs to be sorted. You know, his backroom team has to be unbelievably professional and who he wants, and that costs a lot of money. You know, you're on about top S&C, nutrition, doctors, physios. So
you're looking at a few $100,000 anyway.
Yeah, but that's it, and he's going to want guarantees that that's there. Now, the minute last year, listen, obviously with everything happening in Donegal, fundraising didn't really happen. So at the minute, finances aren't great in the county, but they will be when Jim comes in. They'll get behind him. So I suppose they had to tease out what he would have needed in terms of his team and his backroom team and who that's going to be versus what the deal's going to be. So it's not just Jim comes in, you take a box, he's the manager. There's quite a few things to put in place.
He's got a wish list as well.
That's it.
So let me ask you this, in your view, what brought him back? What does he see there? Because, you know, he knows expectations. Now, he'll come out and he'll manage expectations, but he knows where expectations will be at. And we discussed this a little bit last year. I mean, like, is an Ulster enough? I don't know if it is anymore, right? So, but you know more than I, as everyone knows. But, like, what does he see in the county, do you think, that he says, right, I can do something here? Because he wouldn't come back otherwise, would he?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing, Rick, is that he had to kind of maybe put the I suppose the soccer side of his life to bed. I know that obviously where he was, that journey went on, Greg, between being over at Glasgow, Celtic, in terms of his roles there. You know, he'd over first his performance in that with under 20s and he took his coaching badges then, and then he ended up getting a number 2 job going out to China. I mean, it's a phenomenal story. He ends up then at Charlotte. You know, you look at Charlotte now; they're in the top flight MLS where Messi's playing. You know, he was so close to that. So when he come back here, then you know he still was doing about Derry City, and I think he still was looking about potentially taking a soccer job. You know,
well, his name was linked to the Finn Harp shop.
Yeah, that's it. Whether it be League Ireland or wherever, Irish League or something, but this didn't seem to materialise. Now, obviously, he was doing a bit with Down last year, and he had offered to help out with. If Rory Cavan and Carlisle had taken the job to be part of their management team, if you like. Now that so he at that stage, I suppose, was kind of thinking about coming back, but for him now looking at it, maybe he's decided, right, it's time to come back in. I think it's a brilliant time for him to come in because there were so many players missing last year that'll come back. The lads that had come in, particularly in the championship, you know, really showed their merit and their skills. So you know, if you're putting a team, listen, we beat Monaghan with a side which was missing a host of players. They ran Dublin right close to the last few minutes of the game. So you'd think of putting those players in we're certainly going to be a match again for Tyrone's and for
and he's got a godlike status. Let's put it like that. He's going to get an extra 5 to 10% on any player.
At least, I would say even more.
Just because of who he is.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, I would have to say again, fair play to like Malachy O'Rourke and Paddy Bradley, and that they did somehow turn Donegal's fortunes around last year. And I think it was one of the best quotes of last year was Malachy O'Rourke after we lost to Tyrone, saying, "I'm going to go and lie in a dark room for about a week now." I mean, the stress and the pressure must have been immense on him. But listen,
they did a great job. So McGuinness comes in on a 3 years minimum?
Well, I think that's another bit of small. There's word about,
but no point in 1 year rollers. That's not good.
I would say, Greg, really, it's his job for as long as he wants it. I mean, let's be honest, Greg. Let's just look at the scenario if Jim isn't in. We're back to this scenario of we approached a few people last year. I know we might have approached some of them, sounded them out this year. There's very few candidates out there, and there's none like him. So I mean, the fact that he's in there now, the lift will give the lads, the players, the whole county, the finances will run in behind him, because when people see it's like a spiral effect, Greg. When things start to go down, when there's turmoil, nobody wants to know, and then when it builds up again, everybody gets back on board.
Would he have any demands, expectations or inquiries as it relates to the structure of how the sport is run in this county?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. People are on with Carl Lissy. John Carl Lissy's up working with Kilcoo at the minute. The word on the street is that he isn't going to join them. I thought that would have been a nice fit in, because Carl was very well got as a coach in Bonner's time. But for him, I think that, Greg, there's no doubting our fortunes will go up. His organisation, now people say the game has moved on as well, but he'll be ready for that. I think his love of Donegal we have to put in there, his attitude and his I suppose what he brings to it in terms of who he is and the knowledge that he has, and so the lift that he's going to give everybody there is going to be huge.
But maybe not locally, but certainly nationally, eyes will be on what kind of football he plays, because there is a lot of feeling out there that he introduced a certain type of football, albeit successful, that really the legacy of it we're only probably starting to shake now.
Yeah.
Well, was that phrased okay?
Yeah.
I'm trying to be really careful here.
You can't. It's obviously things is always evolving.
Yeah.
And listen, his tactic changed the whole game. 3 Ulsters, Greg, we couldn't get across the line in Ulster. He won 3 in 4 years, two All-Ireland finals, won one, lost one narrowly. You'd have to say that as the football has changed now, he's going to be very much aware of that, in terms of that you have to get to a certain mark. Like, he was stopping teams scoring maybe 12 points in that, and we were always going to be that was the game plan, hit them on the counter-attack. Now everybody's got wise to that. So what you're seeing even with Donegal this year, the breaking out from defence is the key, the fitness and the ability of everybody to be able to contribute going forward, whether it be with being on the ball or putting the ball over the bar. So I think he'll be very aware of it, but we have the players to do that.
I'd imagine he'll set really high standards for players to be part of this squad as well, in terms of availability for training or travelling or things like that there, because to compete with Dublin, everything's centred closely in terms of travelling for training, conditioning, physio, all that type of stuff. It'll be I'm not sure any county can really truly take them on in the long run unless you can get close to what they're doing off the pitch.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge. So
it'll be interesting to see
in a big county
what demands he might have in that regard.
With players like away at different places, college working, particularly the boys coming down from Dublin, there is always that element to it. But certainly you're on about commitment. There's no doubting that things is going to rise. You look at the 4 years with Donegal, there did seem to be, after that, a few people were affected by the heavy training. Maybe there was a wee bit of a lag after it from his time. But that's the focus he brings. It's all about here and now, and it's your life's dedicated to the team, and that's it, and that's the way it's going to be. But the lads will revel in that, Greg, because
of course,
you asked any footballer, give me a block of a few years where it's absolutely hands-on and the county's all behind it, and there's a lift. But there's coaches, outside of Carroll, obviously, like Mark McHugh's down with Roscommon, Paul Durkin and Colin McFadden, his brother-in-law's in training with Sligo. You obviously have likes of Eamon McGee and McClune involved in the 20s, and so there's a load of lads from his time.
And what's really interesting is you firstly players will believe that they can win an All-Ireland under him, that the glory days can come back.
Yeah.
They'll genuinely believe that. Yeah. But second to that as well, it's almost a perfect time for him to come in because there is a transition. There is the 2012 boys that are going to be maturing into that role into the future as well. So you could argue that this, if all goes well, bodes well for a generation almost. Yeah. Because maybe Michael Murphy might be ready whenever Jim decides. I know I'm getting ahead of myself here, don't get me wrong, but it's nice to be looking forward where there's you can see a path. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Rather than it being a scramble just to find out who might actually want to take a job. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well that's interesting. I'll tell you, because of, you look at the candidates that we would have had ready, a lot of them guys I mentioned, they were all doing bits and pieces of coaching, but they wouldn't be ready to take the Donegal job as such. But outside of a Rory Kavanagh and a Carl Lacey would have been last year now, they would be different, but neither of them's going to be involved in this setup. If Jim was to take in, even the likes of a Michael Murphy, even if it wasn't this year, if some stage if he was to join in, the fact that we could get guys to be in Jim's standard. Now, obviously, they've played under him, but it's a very different thing than when you join the management team. So I'm hoping a few of those guys I mentioned join his backroom team and they could be managers for the future as well.
Any idea of the backroom team? Any guarantees?
There's more text flying about than I care to mention, but listen, it's all rumour mill at the minute. But hopefully tonight, normally the county meetings are Monday nights, Greg. There's a special one tonight. It can't be for anything else, but still up to delegates to ratify them. But I think this, I don't think there'll be anybody saying, "Oh, hold on a second." I think they'll be like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Right. Okay. So obviously there's going to be some chat about that tonight. But the championship. Kicked off, threw in at the weekend in earnest.
Yeah, and listen, we're always wondering will there be a shock in there somewhere, and the games pretty much all went with who we would have thought. I was just looking back at a stat. There's probably, I think it's 8 or 9 years since someone outside of what we call the top four actually beat a top four team.
And
so that's
there was plenty to spare in most of the games too.
There was, and I suppose there's a few teams now. Even people say Niamh Conlon and Unions are a bit ahead. Gweedore have lost maybe 6 or 7 players between lads away and a couple of injuries, and that's there badly depleted. Kilcar just tucked in, I think, behind the likes of St Unions and Niamh Conlon. I was at the St Unions game on Saturday evening there against St Nolls. Listen, St Nolls again, well organised, committed, stayed in the game as long as they could. There was 3 points in it with about 10 to go. Unions eventually opened up. I was out at Glenswilly yesterday against Ardra. Glenswilly looking really well as well. Like Michael Murphy, as you mentioned, still doing damage up front. Gary McFadden was brilliant for them. Copper.
You didn't get along to the 10-point thriller between Full Masters and Nauru, no?
No, that scares me. Now, Peter Campbell was doing updates. They were just a wee bit ahead of our game, and I felt really sorry for him because at one stage he was hoping for a game to break out in the middle. That is listen, it's a I suppose a bit of a damning scoreline in terms of even at like Glenfern won, Michaels won 5-5 on Friday evening. That was bad. Now 7-3 to Rua, both teams playing very, very defensive. Now again, Greg, come back to this thing of them getting ready to beat a bigger team. They think, right, well, that's the game plan. We have to play like that. I mean, yesterday, strangely, Ardra actually tried to keep 3 or 4 players up front. Now it left them a bit open at the back, which Glenswilly profited from. So what do you do? Like, I mean, to me, it's up to the bigger teams.
I suppose sometimes it depends on how you want to go out.
Yeah,
but do you want to go out? Do you want to have to go out having kicked 3 points, or do you want to go out having scored 112, but them scoring 116? I don't know. It depends on.
Yeah. It's a tough one. To me, the bigger teams have to set the tone, and the bigger teams are still playing counter-attack. And
it'll be interesting again if Jim McGuinness calls managers together.
Yes.
Huh? You'd love that, wouldn't you? Well, he could send you out.
Yeah, well, maybe. I'll do what I'm told.
All right, come here. John Gilday, Gary McDade, both championship winners. They're on the show tonight. Interviews with Glenswilly Vice Chair Barry Malloy as well. The show's live just after 7 p.m. on Monday. Podcast tonight, podcast on HighlandRadio.com. The OB looked brilliant last week.
Yeah.
Lovely setup. Yeah. Really looked the part, actually. Well done. Sounded great too, which is the important thing. But it's a great visual archive too. to.
Yeah.
People can check that out on YouTube, the DL debate. It was live from Sister Sarah's last week. All right, okay. Anything else you want to mention?
That's a great. No, a nice wee chappy Barry Malloy. You just mentioned there. He's a vice chairman out of Glenswilly. Just a wee bit of talk about what happened. Like, a lot of people wouldn't be aware of how much work goes on in the background. There's good things happening out at Glenswilly. Good performance yesterday, but a lot of good things happening around the club. So I talked to Barry about that, and I'll put that on the show this evening.
Yeah, Cola says it's high time young players are given a chance to play for Donegal. There are many, many players that have never been seen that could play for Donegal. It's time we had serious scouts to find such players. Fact, they say.
Right.
Yeah. Money will have to follow Jim McGuinness if we're to get back up there again. That's why Mayo are up there for so many years, in my opinion. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, fanatical Mayo fans. Yeah, listen, some counties, the major counties, it's terrible. You look at it, the counties who can generate the most money are actually counties at the top. You know, it's almost like a
chicken and egg, isn't it?
It is a bit, yeah.
Weather conditions on Friday evening, Glenfin versus St Michael's, was atrocious. So.
Yeah, listen, that's what I'm saying. The weather was terrible. I heard that. I was chatting to a couple of people who was at it, so I'll give them a pass on that
was
one.
Bad.
I'll give them a pass.
All right, Brendan, you better go and get your show ready then. So fantastic stuff. Brendan Devaney, the DL debate is on tonight. Another packed show with a review of the club championships from the opening weekend. As I mentioned, the feedback, analysis and interviews across the big games. Brendan's guests on the show include championship winners John Gilday, Gary McDade. That interview, as you mentioned there, with Glen Swilly Vice Chair Barry Malloy. It's all live after 7 o'clock tonight, and you can podcast then on our website, highlandradio.com. Any views on all of that? 086 60 25,000.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
It's the 9 till Noon Show in association with the Northwest Truck Fest this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart, with live music, family fun, a truck convoy and much more.
There's still time to book that holiday to France with Stena Line. Travel Rosslare to Cherbourg from €199 one way, car and driver. Travel in comfort at a time that suits you, with more sailings to France and Britain than ever before. Book now at stenaline.ie. Wherever you're going, enjoy getting there with Stena Line.
An bhfuil méidir cliste agat agus gan is agad conas tús a chur lenne a úsáid? Cóirí le high price plan méidir cliste Electric Ireland Home Electric Plus. Agus féach an méid foioine bheith úsáidan tú gach mí, gach lá nó fiú gach uirich. Is tús cílver chun dúsáid foioine bheith laidú agus chun an tarva is mó a bhaint as the véidir cliste. Le chlóru, cuairdaí Electric Ireland Home Electric Plus. Tá méidir cliste agus contas lína riachtanach. Caithí ceara bhí imacht thart sula mai teachtar na feimine seo. Tá termíos canílacha I bhaim. Féach electricireland.ie.
Donegal County Council has prepared a proposed material alterations to the draft Letterkenny Plan and Local Transport Plan 2023 to 2029 for public inspection. Public consultation runs from Friday 11th of August to Friday 8th of September 2023. For details, see consult.donegal.ie.
Have you heard about the McElhinney's M card? Now available exclusively in store. Sign up today to start earning and redeem once you hit £500. Register in store at our M card station on the first floor or at any till point. The M card, the new way to save at McElhinney's.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at
21 minutes past 11. A caller says, I don't think Ireland had enough to win the World Cup. We could have secured 3 draws if it wasn't for an unfortunate own goal and a needless penalty. Wouldn't be enough to qualify for the next round, but would have been nice to return home as the only unbeaten team in the tournament. Okay. I think it's sad about Donegal not providing enough changing facilities for those with disabilities. I worked in retail for years, and back then, not sure if it's still the case, you were only required to get accessible toilets in if you provided food into the establishment. A shame if this can't change. Okay, thank you for that. Right. On a Monday after 11 o'clock, we allocate a bit of time to talk a little bit more in depth about a topic, and it's called Monday Focus. And on today's Monday Focus, we talk to the Banking and Insurance Micro Redress Focus Group. They've been meeting with the banks and insurance groups on the financial shortfalls that families face in the new redress scheme. Sean McCabe and Sarah Shovlin are joining us now. Good morning, Sean. Good morning, Sarah. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Greg.
Hi, Greg. Thanks for having us.
Oh, no, it's our pleasure. It's really important. Sean, I might start with you, if that's okay. Where are the banks and insurance companies at right now in terms of what help or they might provide, or what liability they might accept. Is there any movement from them at all?
We've engaged with them all, Greg, at this stage. We've engaged with all the major banks and indeed some of the smaller ones, including the vulture funds. So the BPFI, the Bank and Payment Federation of Ireland, have facilitated a meeting with all the institutions, and we've put across all the necessary points that we feel at this time that is urgent. So short-term interim finance and other finance facilities largely being to the fore. They have essentially at this stage, they are taking away our input, and they're hoping to come back with products and engage with the government to see if we can get financial products in place that people urgently need. And we've stressed that to them. We've stressed that to them, that this is now an urgent matter. You know, it has been for some time, but before we met them, they had no clue of the gravity of this. So we're waiting on the banks to come back. They've given us verbal reassurances, but we have nothing clear, you know, in terms of products at this stage.
And the bottom line is this is born, is it not, Sean, from the fact that for a lot of people, if not all people, there is going to be a shortfall, and access to credit is going to be the option for most to try and make up that shortfall. And I suppose we would hope that the banks would see that it's their interest to have their assets returned to full value and would work with the homeowners. But then some might say they're just going to sit in their hands because the job's going to be done for them anyway.
Well, it's as a result of a failed scheme, Greg. We shouldn't have to engage with the banks. So, you know, it's a result of a scheme not being fit for purpose, as we all know. So, unfortunately, you know, we have to engage with the banks because people need to move on, and that's the general feeling amongst the public and indeed us, Sarah and myself, as defective block homeowners as well. So, yeah, so, I mean, the government and the scheme has failed us. So because of that, we've had to look for this alternative method in terms of engaging with the financial entities, and hopefully, you know, it's been quite positive to date. But you know, I'm optimistic, but I'm cautious because we now need evidence of what they're going to do, and we're really moving from one phase to the next phase. In regards to our negotiations with the banks, as I'm sure you appreciate, it's a very detailed, ongoing process, time-consuming, etc. And we're hoping now that they understand the issues. And from our first meeting, where they clearly didn't, across all lenders, and maybe even the government to a certain extent when we met with the minister, but now there is an acceptance that this is a necessity for people to move on with their lives. So, you know, that's where we're at with the process. So,
Okay.
so we're optimistic, but cautious.
I'll come back to you, Sarah. I mean, did it surprise you in those early meetings the lack of awareness that the lending institutions actually had? And can you talk us through sort of how you tried to let them know the reality for people out there?
Yeah, it was a real eye-opener for us, Greg, when we met with them on the 29th of May in the Banking and Payment Federation's office in Dublin. All the main lenders were there, and we basically laid out the reality of what's facing homeowners. Several of us within the committee have started and are already, you know, a significant way through this process. And one of the clear things was that it's obvious that there's been little or no discussion between the government and banks. I would say, given that they didn't have any awareness of how extreme, you know, on the 90-10 scheme that we were all on up until a few weeks ago, how extreme the gap between the funding and the grant was. Like we've engaged with the Irish Culture Banking Board as well, and those guys, their initial response was that, you know, there's 100%, and I quote here from a letter, 100% funded scheme will commence when regulations are updated. So everybody is believing the government's propaganda that it is a 100% funded scheme, when the stark reality is that it's not. And a very obvious gap in the scheme is obviously the foundations. So any work you do to the foundations would have to be covered by yourself. But there are other gaps as well.
We still haven't even got any confirmation in relation to a critical element of this moving forward. Sarah, I mean, it's kind of shocking, isn't it, that yous had to go up there, considering the amount of money the bank has on the table here, but also the responsibility many people feel they might have. It's astonishing that you had to go up there and say, this is the reality we're living in, and they're like, oh, right, didn't quite realise this. Why should it come down to people who are affected by this crisis to be making the banks aware? This should be happening surely at the highest levels within the housing department, within government, the financial department, whatever it might be. The government should be turning the screw on banks, saying, look, we'll levy you unless you do the right thing here, or we'll levy the vulture funds unless that you reduce interest rates. This is, I like it. I'm flabbergasted that it's people who are living in these homes that are falling down that are having to open the eyes of the banks and keep the fingers crossed that they do the right thing.
Absolutely, Greg. Like, there was some very simple low-hanging fruit that could be won easily with the banks. You know, for example, like, everyone who has a defective home needs to make their mortgage provider aware that they have a defective home, because that ultimately will be a certain risk factor to the banks, and those banks should be reporting that risk back to the central bank and the powers that be. But, like, you know, there's other things when you contact the bank and say that you can give them your report, and you know, if you are a person who needs to be demolished, there is a default clause on everyone's mortgage that if you demolish your home, that you are in breach of your terms and conditions of your mortgage. Like, the banks need to be helping people through this whole process. And there is what is classed as a vulnerable client for the banking groups. And if you are a vulnerable client, that you've got some life event going on, and let me just say, there's no larger life event than potentially losing your home, you know, they need to be treating every defective homeowner as a vulnerable client. Even having simple ways of contacting them on their website. You know, there was no dedicated line or contact centre for many of the banks in relation to Micah, and we found that when people were phoning up and talking to whoever answered the phone, that there wasn't a specialist and expertise knowledge of the scheme. The people in the banks didn't know anything about it.
And you end up having the same conversation over and over again with a different person.
Yeah. And people will say to you, well, what do you need money for? It's 100%. Like, the propaganda has really worked. Everyone, you know, within the banks believed that it was 100%, and we know that it's not. So we have asked for a dedicated line to be sent up so that when people contact the banks, that they are dealt with, you know, in an appropriate manner, and that the person on the other end of the phone has some sort of understanding of the scheme and can talk the homeowner through what they need to do in order to be potentially able to release some credit for themselves.
Yeah, and it's hard to believe we're talking...
Training and communication.
Yeah, it's hard to believe we're talking about really trying to get a loan facility for people when, you know, that's further debt, further... It really is crazy. And I'll tell you, and no one's going to convince me otherwise, banks' loan books do not reflect the true value of their assets. Someone said that they do. How could they? Because they don't know how many of their houses are effectively workless. So if in terms of a bank shares or their value or how their loan book is performing, no one can tell me that it's accurate, because it can't, because it does not reflect the reality that much of the property in Donegal is worthless effectively, and I would say that's not reflected. So Sean, when you talk about optimism or hope, what is it? What could they come back with? What are they suggesting they might come back with to try and help their customers?
Yeah, good question, Greg. And you touched there on the loans. So we're very much of the belief that any short-term interim finance loan should be 0%. And we've made that very clear, and we've made that public at the Oireachtas meeting on the 5th of July. So it's really important that people out there understand that we're not lobbying these groups to in any way help the banks profit from our misfortune. And I want to make that very clear today. So in terms of optimism, we're hoping and we're fighting for a 0% interim finance loan on a short-term basis. And we're also asking for other products for other people across the whole situation in regards to defective blocks. So that's people that need to rebuild their homes and are going to accrue obviously extra cost. And you know, we give an example of that at the Oireachtas, where there was a huge shortfall. Donna McDade displayed that very clearly at the Oireachtas meeting. I think the shortfall was over 112,000 to date. So that's one area. And then the other area is for people that are they're going to have what I would call a larger than scheme cap size home loan shortfall, which allows people that maybe exceed the cost of the cap to also complete their homes, and then people maybe that decide to knock everything down, demolish completely, they also need. And very importantly and very crucially, our vulnerable members of society, the people that are in their latter years of life, the pensioners out there, they need to be helped.
Yeah.
And we really emphasised that we need what I would call sympathetic underwriting in regards to that. And that includes, as I mentioned, people in their latter years, and also people through no fault of their own have accrued maybe late payments or arrears due to the situation that they found themselves in. And we've put that across to the Minister, Michael McGrath. We put that across to the banks. We will put that across to the insurance companies as well as we move forward. But that's hugely important. So if people take anything away from today, I wanted to be not out there to in any way help the banks profit from our own misfortune.
Because Sean,
definitely not.
And Sarah, like, there are some people that might feel that this is almost like waving the white flag, that, you know, the banks.
Absolutely not.
No, I know
Absolutely
that. I know
not.
it's not, Sean, but I want to say it now rather than read a text when you're off air, that in other words, you know, the banks should be themselves funding any shortfalls, because until such time as the mortgage paid, you know, it's their asset. Let's put it like that there. Go ahead.
If the government scheme, Greg, was fit for purpose, we wouldn't be here today talking to you.
Yeah, indeed. Okay,
that's the bottom line. And we shouldn't have to go to the banks.
Okay,
we shouldn't have to go to the banks. So, you know, if the scheme was fit for purpose, and clearly it's not. Fundamentally, it's still not fit for purpose. It's not fit for all to enter, even though they've lowered the cost there for testing, etc. But it's still not fit for purpose, because there's still a shortfall no matter what area of build that you're in.
Yeah, well, at the Dole Committee meeting,
option 1 to 5.
At the Dole Committee meeting, we heard a civil servant say that he believed that this was a 100% redress scheme for most, and we heard Minister Charlie McConalogue recently in his comments saying that he does believe this scheme is fit for purpose. You're not of the same view, obviously, Sean.
Well, I mean, we've given examples. We've given very clear examples. It's on public record. And, you know, people need to come forward and also sort of back that up with the banks. But we've given very clear examples, build costings, detailed costings on Excel spreadsheets. I mean, we can't be any more explicit on that. There's a shortfall across, and I challenge anyone that says that they're able to do stuff based on current building materials, cost, etc., labour, which will only increase with indexation and with availability across the county. Builders don't want to engage. My builder friends don't want to engage with the scheme. Why would they? They'd have to wait. So the shortfall would have to wait for all sorts of payments. Tradesmen, etc., would have to wait. So, you know,
and you know as much as anyone, we all know they're up to their ears in work anyway. They don't need to be doing work that's that they have to wait months for their payment. Sarah, are the banks aware, or do they have an interest in the fact that this scheme, as it stands, is currently designed to rebuild houses on potentially, if not probably, defective concrete? Like, I wonder what they think of that. They have so much ignorance to this scheme to begin with. Do they realise that the proposition at this point is to rebuild houses or partially rebuild them on potentially rotten foundations?
I think one of the answers from them, Greg, and I might not be direct quote, but it's near enough, is that they said they'd be led by the experts. So, you know, you've got your engineer's report, so they'll follow the engineer's report. If the engineer's report tells you to demolish, then that's, you know, the bank is happy for that to happen. But I think where the big disconnect is that, you know, we have engineers saying that you shouldn't build on your foundation, and we have a government scheme that says if you take that approach, then that's on your cost.
Well, we have the CEO of Donegal County Councils himself, John McLaughlin, and again, I don't want to misquote him. I think he said if it were he would try and get the foundations done as well.
Correct.
That's pretty striking, that commentary. Sean and Sarah, I mean, you signed up for this to be part of this, and fair play to you, because it's incredibly technical and incredibly time-consuming, Sean, and incredibly frustrating along the process. But as you say there, Sean, you're trying to retain some optimism and see what they come back with. But it's a tough piece of work you, Sarah, and others have taken, I think, on as part of the focus group on banking and insurance within this scandal.
Yeah, that's right, Greg, and thank you for taking the time to let us talk about it today. Can I just say to the public, I know it's very difficult. We're all dealing with this, and it's a hugely difficult issue. It's become a humanitarian issue. It's beyond the housing crisis. But I would ask them to inform their lenders, inform their insurance companies, because currently the lenders and the insurance companies aren't keeping numerical statistics or figures around the gravity of this. And the more people we have coming forward and letting them know, then they can measure the gravity of it, and it prompts them to engage with us.
Really good
So
point.
I would implore people, I know how difficult it is, and a lot of people have literally, stepped to the side because of the mental health and the stress and all the rest of it, and we totally are empathetic to that. As I say, we're defective block homeowners ourselves, but I would implore people to come forward, engage with the lenders, because the lenders to date, as Sarah alluded to earlier on, they aren't recording the statistics. So, which they should be doing, and we're going to put this across to the central bank as well. And when we met the minister, he was very interested to hear that from our interactions with the banks and the financial institutions that they aren't recording data. So if they're not recording data, the problem doesn't exist.
No, they should see a cluster of of problems in the northwest.
Exactly.
And go, hold on, we have to do something here. Sarah, is there anything that you want to add finally?
This redress group came together by a call out from Roisin and a few others looking for volunteers, and we're still very much looking for volunteers. There are many people out there with expertise, not just in the banking and insurance sector, but social media and other things like that, to try and keep the issue in the media and try and push for resolution for everybody, to try and make this process a whole lot easier. So if you have spare time and you have an expertise, it would be really good to come forward and try and help out where you can. It doesn't have to be hours a week. It could be 30 minutes or an hour a month. It doesn't matter. Every little bit helps.
Sarah Shufflin, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And not just your time in talking to us, but the time in what you and Sean are doing when you're dealing with this crisis yourselves. So Sarah Shufflin and Sean McCabe, both of you, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks,
Greg. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Greg.
Take care of yourselves, guys. Okay, that was Monday Focus.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show brought to you by the Northwest Truck Fest, taking place this Saturday and Sunday in the grounds of Milford Mart, with proceeds to Donegal Down syndrome.
An lá sira is far riamh, Carver Dlú Corja, Shascan ó méid on Malia, De zip lína íontacha, Ocht rairc den chéadsco, Cerach up an cafe con sus a glocha. Níla méidir isteach I bluish lán íontas. Trí vacala! Ein lá do chredta a bháin. Agric an lá sira is far a vega gut riamh ag discoverireland.ie agus buintanamh sira in ein lá a bháin. A chur fáil ag fáilte Ireland.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring 70% off sale. Get up to 70% off on all your purchases. Up to 70% off all tiles, all wood flooring, all bathware. Everything's reduced in store. The 70% off sale at Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring. Stores nationwide. Sale now on.
Are you tired of the gym? Get stronger in just 20 minutes per week with Fit20. Train once a week with a personal trainer in a climate-controlled gym. The surroundings are quiet and peaceful and the machines are spotless. We guarantee measurable results within 3 months or your money back. So what are you waiting for? Try Fit20 today. Visit fit20.ie to book your free session.
At Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, we are now operating out of one new state-of-the-art showroom in Donegal Town. And we invite you to visit our new 5,000 square foot Donegal Town showroom to discover the latest eye-catching designs. Remember, at Cherrymore, you're dealing directly with the manufacturer, which means high-quality kitchens at factory prices. Start planning your dream kitchen or bedroom by calling Cherrymore on 074 9725 822. Cherrymore, 25 years delivering value, quality and service all over Ireland.
Over 43,000 people left emergency departments in Ireland before they had completed their treatment over the period from January to the end of May this year. The HSE figures show that 1,259 patients left without treatment from Letterkenny University Hospital, 1,065 from Sligo University Hospital. Now, of course, this is a huge concern that they're leaving, but we have to ask what are causing these delays. Martin Varley is Secretary General of Irish Hospital Consultants Association. And Martin, good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg.
Bottom line is, you know, we speak to quite a lot of them that say, right, I've been there for 8-9 hours, you know, it's too uncomfortable, nothing seems to be moving, and I'm away home. And this is really, I didn't expect the figures to be as high as they are. I don't know what your view on it is, Martin.
Yeah, the figures are very, very high, and they're a major concern for consultants and for the Hospital Consultants Association. So we're very concerned about these figures. They indicate to us that patients are obviously leaving before the treatment is completed, and you have to ask the question why. I think the primary causes of this are actually the capacity deficits we have in our hospitals. We've been saying this for a decade or more. There are far too few beds in our hospitals, and we've far too few consultants. We're about 40% below the EU average on both counts. And in fact, when you look at our consultant numbers, the permanent consultant numbers we have approved in Letterkenny, up to 31% of them are not filled on a permanent basis. So that's a shocking figure.
Well, if you look at it like this, Martin, if we're 40% behind the EU average, and in Letterkenny 1 in 3 posts aren't filled, in this part of the world, we're significantly below any EU average then.
You are absolutely on that count. And even when you look at the beds since COVID, since early 2000, the country has expanded the bed capacity in our acute hospital by about 1,000 beds. But only 69 of those beds have actually been opened in the West Northwest, the whole Celta region. So that's 7% of the beds being opened in the West, whereas you have 70% of the population. So again, you're falling behind, relatively speaking, even compared with what's been done to try and expand the capacity. So we're quite concerned, and we've highlighted this already, and even in our pre-budget submission over a month ago. And we're calling on the government to put in place a rapid expansion of the capacity in our hospitals. Because if we don't do this, we will see a continuation of what we've been seeing heretofore.
But what do we do then, though, Martin? Because if I put that point to Stephen Donnelly, he would say 30 million extra went into the hospital last year. We've approved 31 posts, consultants posts. They're there. They're fully funded. You know, what else can we do here? Do you know what I mean? Like, so what? I'll ask you, what else could the government do, even being local on it for a second, to fill those vacant consultant posts in Letterkenny? Before then, you could even talk about increasing staff to support them and therefore increasing beds.
I think what you need to do is, first and foremost, recognise the fact that we're coming from a position of hugely insufficient capacity to start with. So putting an extra 30 million, whatever the figure, into the system is only trying to catch up on the deficit. So that has to be recognised from the get-go. Now, secondly, and very importantly, if one is to fill those positions, at the same time expanding the capacity is crucially important, because consultants and frontline staff are finding it very difficult to work in conditions where you don't have the basic capacity to provide timely care to patients. So approving posts is one thing. Ensuring you have proper terms and conditions for people to work in is hugely important if you want to fill those posts and retain staff. And the difficulty is we're starting out with insufficient capacity. So people who are in a position to work anywhere in the world are looking at their options. And it's very difficult for people to ignore the fact that they might have better capacity to treat patients in time elsewhere. And that's actually starting to work against us as a country as a whole. And we haven't invested properly in our public hospitals for well over a decade. even prior to the financial crisis. So the catch-up is significant. The Minister has said he wants a rapid build of 1,500 beds. We support him fully on that. He said he wants to open three or four elective hospitals. We support him fully on that. He says he wants to open 6 additional surgical hubs to bring down the waiting list. We support him fully. The difficulty is he doesn't have the money in the budget for that yet, and that has to be approved. And next opportunity to approve that is in the budget in October. So getting the working conditions right, just like you and I, we go to work in the morning, we want to know we can do our job. We want to know we have the basic facilities to do it. It's doubly hard to work when you don't have the basic facilities.
Well, look, we've been talking about that for years up here. You know, the comments from one former consultant went national in that he was sitting twiddling his thumbs because he couldn't do the work that he wanted to do. But these figures are people. Both you and I recognise that, of course, Martin. And, you know, in terms of the 1,259 people that left the ED at Letterkenny before the treatment was completed, like, what's their age demographic? Are these the older people that contact us? Are these the older people that say, I'm not going back there again? Are these the older people that their lives may be potentially, and not just older people, but their lives are potentially being cut short because they can't get a GP appointment and they don't want to sit for 14 hours in ED, and their families are saying, please, Mum, please, Dad, you need to go in and get looked at. And they say, I don't care if I die in this bed, I'm not going back in there. That's the health system we have now, and it's so scary and so worrying. Now, anyone who needs to go to the ED should, and they'll be prioritised if they need the assistance. But be that as it may, that's the perception that's out there, Martin, that it's not a place people want to go, and we don't know what that means for their outcomes.
Yeah, and that's a big concern, because while patients are triaged and hopefully those who have the more serious illnesses, the more urgent illnesses are actually treated first, one cannot be 100% sure until one actually gets to sit down with the patient and do the full examination as to what the risks are. So there's always some risk there, and therefore we would advise people, if at all possible, wait for the treatment that you have arrived for. And of course, you're right, we need more facilities in the community as well. We need to be able to discharge patients from our public hospitals who have completed their treatment and are clinically discharged by their consultant and medical team, but we need step-down facilities in the community. There are about 600 to 800 beds annually, which are actually occupied by clinic discharged patients who are waiting for step-down facilities, be it home care, be it rehab, be it a nursing home, whatever. But again, there's 2 or 3 wings to this operation that the country must get right.
Yeah, the only thing too is it a factor too, Martin, and this is not to get into any other sort of debate, but just a reality, that we have had a rapid acceleration in our population as of late. I presume that has to set us back even further, because there's a considerable increase in the population, like in multiples of percent, all looking to use the same facilities that are already under-resourced, 40% behind the European average. That has to... in other words, we need to almost redouble our efforts to account for that, I'd imagine, no?
We do, yes, absolutely. It's back to what I said earlier. We're playing catch-up here. Our population is growing faster than any other country in Europe, to my knowledge, and that has been the case for a long time, and it's gone up even more in the last year or two, for obvious reasons. So we really need to redouble our efforts. And while the Minister says he wants to rapidly build the extra beds in this year and next year, if you don't put the money in the budget, that can't happen. And you need a very firm, highly focused plan to do it. And I believe it can be done. In particular in hospitals around the country, adding on incremental blocks of beds is fairly time effective if one goes about it properly, but if we don't fund it in the budget, you're not even in the starting blocks.
Okay.
So we haven't got out of the starting blocks, and we won't unless it's funded in the budget.
All right, Martin, thanks for your time this morning. Martin Volley there, Secretary-General of Irish Hospital Consultants Association. We'll be back with your comments as we head towards the end of the show after this break.
It's the 9 to Noon Show in association with the Northwest Truck Fest this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart, with live music, family fun, a truck convoy and much more.
It's the big brand sale at Super Value, and there's great special offers like selected Nestle and Kellogg cereals now half price, selected goodies like Cadbury large bars and O'Donnell's sharing crisps, any 3 for €5, and money off vouchers every week on the app. So don't miss our big brand sale, and pop in store or online for great savings at Super Value.
Bundoran presents Ireland's biggest indoor dancing festival, the World Matchmaking Festival, in 4 venues for 10 days, 10 nights, September 29th to October 8th. Starring 35 bands including Tumbling Paddies, Derek Ryan, David James, Declan Nerney, plus Blind Date and Speed Dating. Book now for accommodation and entertainment package deals. Log on to showtours.ie or call Show Tours on 0818 300 888. Meet your match in Bundoran.
For all the biggest names in cosmetics and makeup, visit McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. Choose from Lancome and Clarins, Blank Canvas, Inglot, Note and many more. With a great selection of gift sets also available in-store and online. For any cosmetics or makeup queries, just talk to our resident skincare consultants Mary or Gemma. McGee's Chemist, Main Street Letterkenny, and online at mcgees.ie. With the best, costs less.
Do you have your ticket yet?
€2,500 every Friday.
Plus a chance to win big.
10,000 cash money.
Get your ticket today. Go to HighlandRadio.com.
Summer's just got better.
Now, some more. Oh, I've dropped it. Some more if you're texting in your bills, your electricity bills, your most recent one. Now, there's a couple of dots missing, so I'm going to presume these are correct. I'm pay-as-you-go. My electric was €177.67, €177.67 for 2 months. Another, my last bill was €520.37. Massive for summer bills, they are. A caller says, I'll probably be accused of being anti-LGBT, but because I am not, but an LGBT flag painted on an ambulance, this is just so wrong. It doesn't bother. I don't find the flag particularly offensive. It doesn't. I think it's just really maybe, and I'm sure there are those who ride in ambulances to come and save lives that are members of those communities, and I presume it's nice for them if it's visible and they're recognised by their employer. I don't think it makes the ambulance go any slower or stops the sirens working or anything, but it's not something, and I say that not facetiously, though it sounds it, because it's not something I really would see as an issue. My experience with EDs, people who know people working in there are skipping queues. I sat twice with a relative and saw this happen firsthand. Now, it might appear that, but people are triaged and brought in dependent on their medical needs. I've not seen any evidence of that myself, but listen, if you've seen it and you believe that, I'm not saying you're wrong. Greg, does anybody think the banks give a damn about the people with Micah? They make you pay no matter what. Sean and Sarah, the banks know all the reality for sure. They just want their money. More electricity bills here. Hi, Greg. This is a breakdown of my bill, which I get because I have a smart meter. I also have Saturday Weekender, which means I've got free electricity from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. I do all my washing, drying, and sometimes batch cooking on that day. Yet I'm charged for laundry, according to this. I questioned this, and their explanation is that they know when I used my machines, and that is what the algorithm identifies. There are only 2 of us in the house, and I think it's too expensive for what we use. The price they have quoted for others is ridiculous, and that comes in from Bernie. We're sold smart meters. They're the best thing since sliced bread. Bernie doesn't use her washing machine unless she's on the free electricity, apparently. I wonder, maybe, do they have a limit as to how much you can use, and that's how they're doing you there. Well, the bill was €336, their bill, and this is a family now who are keeping real close tabs on how and when they're using their electricity. Cooking, €57, entertainment, €45, presume that's your TVs and what have you. Laundry, €39, though Bernie says she only does the washing when the electricity is supposedly free. The refrigerator, to keep that going, €39. Always on, so things that are on standby, your TV and stuff like that, €28. Lighting, decent value in lighting, €12 for the 2 months, although that is in summer. Probably use a lot of LED bulbs, Bernie, do you? But the other, which is probably phone chargers and stuff, is it? I don't know. €116, which could be anything. That could just be a little little tax on a tax. But that bill in total, €336. That's from someone with a smart meter who's clearly keeping a close eye on things. So I just wonder, do they limit how much free electricity you have at certain times and they're sticking that onto you? Anyway, I don't know. Let me see. I wanted to get to this question as well. Hi, Greg and team. Just wondering, is it possible to get Donegal County Council to give an update in relation to the enhanced scheme? When they expect the transitions to be completed? We are on the priority list to transition to the enhanced scheme, but it's been 6 weeks since the scheme opened. We resubmitted our request for information, which was requested on the 31st of July, on the same day, and we've had no response from them. I called DCC today to be told it's with the technical team and no date to be given as to when it would be processed. The opinion is that DCC are doing all they can, but yet we have been waiting so long. The delays are costing the homeowners just further anguish. Right, so what was the response? Applications under the previous scheme were at various stages when the enhanced scheme commenced on the 3rd of July. The council is now required to transition each of these applications to the new enhanced grant scheme. There are 1,296 applications to be transitioned as part of this process. Given the significant number of applications to be transitioned, the process will take a period of time, and we are working hard to complete this in the shortest possible timescale. The council appreciates homeowners' continued patience and understanding as staff manage the heightened workload during the transition period. So it's pretty clear. But what I read that to say is they're having to move each application one at a time at different stages and then marry it to the new scheme, and that is taking time and it's extra work for them. So as I say, that's not really maybe a satisfactory response to our emailer, but what it says is that they'll get to you when they get to you, but there is sounds like quite a long-winded process to get through. Right, 086 60 25,000. Don't forget you can keep your texts coming even when we're off air, or if you're listening to us overnight. I was chatting to a lady in Letterkenny who says I put her to sleep every night. I wasn't quite sure whether to take that as a compliment or otherwise, but anyway, it's nice to know I'm beside you when you're tucked up at night. But anyway, if you are listening either to the pod or overnight, don't forget you can still text the show and be part of it, and we'll pick your messages up the next day and get them out for you.